never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's pro football focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team. I would be very careful about slinging stone. Am I going to get sued?
We go legal on this?
I like football, like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We are live here on a Monday morning. Time to review all of the Week 12 action, Sam.
It is, Steve. Same time, same place every Monday.
Yeah, we're live. We appreciate everybody who tunes in live with us on YouTube. I made it here today. Almost didn't make it here today.
Yeah?
Rolled my ankle walking to my car. Yeah.
That's difficult.
But, I watch a lot of NFL football every Sunday, and I see these titans of the gridiron play through injury. And here I am, crawled up off my face planted into the side of my minivan as I tripped, smashed my body against the side of the minivan.
There's no way the minivan survived that intact.
It's dark out. I have to check if I dented it.
You definitely dented it.
Yeah, and there's a dent on the other side, so we might, may have evened things off. As my near 300-pound frame smashed into the side of the left door.
Well, yeah, so it's near 300 pounds, but it's not like a lot of offensive linemen where there's a lot of padding involved there. Like, there's a lot of angle, a lot of sharp angle parts to your 300 pounds, near 300 pounds.
My recollection is this was kind of like shoulder and face first against the car.
There's no way that hasn't put a dent in it.
So that stopped my fall.
Sweet.
But I walked it off,
and
we're here.
Perfect.
We're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, let's talk Week 12. We did review Thanksgiving. We had an instant reaction to Thanksgiving. Do you want to go quickly through the
we got to cover
Thanksgiving action here?
Cover them at least a little bit.
Here I am thinking we were just going to do the Sunday action. Now it's a full show. Now we're talking. Look, I got Liz with a haircut at 10, so we got to crank through this. You ready to go?
Sure.
All right. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope it was great for everybody. It started with the Buffalo Bills beating the Detroit Lions 28-25. An awesome back and forth game. Lions had a chance to win it, kind of slowly working through their game-winning drive, settle for a field goal, left too much time for Josh Allen to hit an absolute laser beam for a seam. One play, 36 yards into field goal range. Buffalo with the walk-off field goal win. Almost walk-off.
I mean, that was a pretty crazy play from Josh Allen. Just absolute laser. It was one of those throws that it shouldn't be possible based off what everybody's expecting. It changes how the safety plays it. He's just not expecting that throw at all. It was deeper than most quarterbacks can make that throw. Obviously, every quarterback has the arm to get it there, but not every quarterback has the arm to get it there with that velocity and trajectory and get it there before the other safety's able to come over. So the guy that's sort of sitting there in the hole looking like he's covering nothing gets made to look like an idiot because most quarterbacks simply can't put that ball where it's supposed to go. And then it's complicated further by the fact that guy also can't really back up because it's Josh Allen, and the chances are Josh Allen can just break the pocket and start running for 25 yards in a heartbeat, and if he does, that's his responsibility. So that guy gets made to look like an absolute idiot because Josh Allen is capable of doing things like that.
Yeah, so that was kind of an angle changer, right, with Josh Allen's cannon and velocity. Look, the Lions played tough, man. They played a really tough game against the Bills. Were unable to pull it off. I mentioned that final drive. They had a chance for a game-tying field goal or a game-winning touchdown. Maybe some questionable decisions along the way there, but essentially it was a 3rd and 1 that fell incomplete to DJ Chark. They settled for a 51-yard field goal. They hit it to tie it up, but it left too much time for the Bills, who are on the other end of this. You have seconds to get into field goal range, and the Bills pulling it off. The thing the Chiefs did to them last year.
Yeah, it's obviously really simple to sort of put it down to just the two quarterbacks, but it was like the difference, not the difference between these two teams, but the difference between these two teams in this game were when Buffalo really, really needed a big play, Josh Allen made something crazy happen. When Detroit really, really needed a big play, Jared Goff missed it. A couple of times. There was the DJ Chark thing. There was another one earlier on where Goff just slightly out of range of his receiver. Like, Goff actually played a pretty good game, but right when they needed him on a couple of key times, that's when he always seems to come up slightly short, you know?
Yeah, and look, there's something to that. Goff has been solid, right? He's solid run this offense, but there's those handful of plays that you'd want back. Amon-Ra St. Brown with a big game for the Lions, 122 of the 240 passing yards for Jared Goff. So the Lions move to 4-7. That ends their brief 3-game winning streak. Bills up to 8-3, still somewhat keeping pace near the top of the AFC, game behind.
Important win for the Bills, given what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, every game is going to matter if they're still fighting for that home field advantage. We're going to have Chiefs-Bengals this week, right? You're one Chiefs loss away from being right back in the driver's seat as far as the number 1 seed goes. So big win for the Bills. In the 4 o'clock hour, we got the Dallas Cowboys 28, the New York Giants 20. The Giants were up for a bit, and it did feel like you get 2 Dallas interceptions in the first half. The Giants are up 13-7, and then the better team just started to pull away, right? To me, that's what the game flow felt like. Not just to knock the Giants, but they were completely depleted. 4/5 of their offensive line was hurt.
Which wasn't good to start with.
Which already wasn't good to start with. And it felt like one of those games where the Giants, as 9-point underdogs, really needed everything to go well. And then, so the Cowboys it's 13-7, Giants. Cowboys score 3 straight touchdowns to go up 28-13. And then the Giants with the backdoor cover with 12 seconds left.
Yes.
To make it 28-20.
I knew I was in for a bad week when I was agreeing with you as much as I was on the preview show, and that's exactly what happened. It was a rough week. Not my finest hour.
I had a mid-level week. I had a Goffy.
I know. That's
kind of week.
We were in similar ballparks, which indicates how bad things went for me. Micah Parsons in this game was just such an absolute freak show again. Like, in back-to-back weeks, Micah Parsons has handed Christian Darrisaw and Andrew Thomas the first sacks that they've given up this season. Darrisaw gave up one that was sort of borderline questionable, where it's like, is that on him? Is that on Cousins? It's maybe somewhere in the middle. And then a minute later, it was like, okay, that one's definitely on him. So that answers that problem.
Yeah.
But he just, like, I was saying before this game that if we got a ton of Micah Parsons versus Andrew Thomas one-on-one, that would be incredible. And it was. Like, it felt like Andrew Thomas was getting his ass kicked because Parsons got him on a couple of really big plays. But he actually held up okay. Like, you watch the sort of whole sequence, just watch all of Andrew Thomas's snaps. And it's like, he's actually doing a pretty good job. Like, he's keeping Micah Parsons quiet on a lot of these plays. He's completely eliminating them on some, but Parsons is so freaking good that every now and again he's just going to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that was the lowest game grade of Thomas's season by like a good 10 points. That's like 20 points lower than his baseline, and that's just Micah Parsons.
Yeah, and look, the Giants had Jack Anderson, Tyree Phillips, those types of guys starting up front, and they weren't a disaster up front. This wasn't like the Giants couldn't run any offense because of the offensive line, but the circumstances weren't great, right? You weren't going to have that game where you're getting the run game off the ground, getting Saquon Barkley going. There just wasn't enough there. Daniel Jones, a little hit and miss. And, the Giants were just overmatched there, man.
Maybe the best game of Kayvon Thibodeau's young career so far, though. He was, I thought, pretty encouraging.
That was nice for the Giants. From a Cowboys perspective, this was Michael Gallup converted 4 first downs, and early on especially, like, showing really good toughness at the catch point and everything. And we've talked a lot about it can't just be the CeeDee Lamb show, who had the highest grade again in 124 yards, but I think Michael Gallup as the complementary piece. And what they found in Jake Ferguson, the rookie tight end, who the draft model seemed to like, athletic tight end, and he goes for 3 catches, 57 yards, has a 94 receiving grade. Dallas remember early in the year, it was like, oh, the weapons, and they've got no Amari Cooper. They're starting to get the offense back on track with the right pieces.
Can't argue with 14 yards per route run, which is what Jay Ferguson is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as a compliment to Dalton Schultz, I think Dallas is finding their way. Gallup had, I think he had a big drop in there too. Not seeing it in our stats. Maybe I'm misremembering. That was a long time ago in mid-turkey nap. But the Cowboys offense, once again, they just look like one of the best teams all around in the league right now. So both teams came in at 7-3. Giants fall to 7-4. They've got one of the more difficult schedules in the NFL remaining. Cowboys 8-3, and right there in the thick of it in the NFC.
Yeah, we talked last week about how the Giants are the obvious team to potentially drop out of those playoff spots in the NFC and somebody else leapfrog them. Right now, all 4 of the NFC East teams would be in the playoffs if it started, tomorrow. But they don't. So one of them might drop out.
Yeah. As always, that would be serious news if we were starting the playoffs tomorrow for some reason. Don't know why we would.
No.
And we're not, as you mentioned.
I don't know we should.
Cowboys 8-3. All right, then Thursday night, crazy game, Minnesota Vikings 33, New England Patriots 26, a back-and-forth battle, bunch of lead changes, and once again, the Vikings pulling off their fourth-quarter magic. Another game-winning drive for Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson gets his with 139 yards, and on the other side, the Patriots, this was the best game we saw from Mac Jones in about a year.
Yeah.
Essentially in a year. They finally look good. Bunch of big plays, and he did a really nice job. But at the end of the game, you got one chance to drive down, tie the game, sack, and that was pretty much it for the Patriots.
Yeah, it was impressive. The Patriots are the best team in the NFL at taking away your best weapon. And Minnesota's best weapon is Justin Jefferson, who managed to catch 9 of the 11 passes thrown his way for 139 yards and a touchdown. Like, they did a few different things to try and take him away, and none of it worked.
Wasn't that like, Kevin O'Connell being the head coach there? Wasn't that like Cooper Kupp last year? Like, everybody knew you have to slow down Cooper Kupp, and they never actually did at any point during the season.
Right. So Justin Jefferson is generally enjoying that this season. He's had, there was a couple of games. Philadelphia, I think, did a pretty good job, and then Detroit randomly, where he got almost nothing. And then outside of that, he's been pretty consistently dominant almost every single week.
6 lead changes in this game, Sam. Like, legitimate back-and-forth battle here with several big plays on both sides. But, yeah, Justin Jefferson continues to get his. There's a controversial call in this game where Hunter Henry clearly looked like he got into the end zone.
The word is ridiculous, not controversial.
Ridiculous call.
Yes.
Sorry.
I cannot believe that didn't get called. Like, to me, the only question was, is it a touchdown or a first down? But it's a catch. Like, that's the one thing that isn't arguable. And the logic that people seem to be using to say it wasn't a catch doesn't seem to hold up on replay. Like, they're saying, because the ball hit the ground, right? Which it's allowed to do. Like, that's not immediately remember, there was a time where if the ball touched the ground in any way, shape, or form, it was immediately an incompletion. That's not the case anymore. The ball is allowed to touch the ground. It's simply not allowed to, while it's touching the ground, free to lose possession or control of it. That's not what happened. The ball hits the ground. His left hand is under it the whole way. His right hand is still on top of it. And then once the ball is no longer touching the ground, that's when he loses control of it for a brief split second. It flips end over end, then he regathers it, and then is touchdown. So the point being, the only time where he's lost control of this ball, it's not touching the ground, at which point it doesn't matter. Then it's just a juggle. Like, he could juggle it 17 times as long as he regathers it before he's out of bounds or the ball touches the ground. It's good.
So when the ball touches the ground.
Yes. With 2 hands
he rolls
in control
over,
of it.
Has possession of it. Mm-hmm. He's laying on his back.
Yep.
And then he kind of juggles it a little bit.
Yes.
So you're saying because if the ball hits the ground and then he's immediately juggling it, then clearly that's the ground causing that.
Right. And by the way, it's only an issue because he caught the ball, broke the plane, and then went to ground. And they're saying, well, because he goes to ground, he has to survive the ground. Like, there's a Travis Kelce touchdown from the other week where if you contrast the two, it looks absurd. One of them was given, one of them's not. So even independent of that stuff, if you say, okay, fine, if he's going to ground now, he's got to survive the ground. He did. He had control of it all the way through the ground. The control or the loss of control happened only once the ball was no longer touching the ground. I cannot for the life of me see how that is not a catch. And if you like, as the NFL being the NFL, the wording in the rules is not particularly helpful, right? Because part of the problem with this stuff is a lot of the gray area is explained not in the actual rule book, but in the kind of case study manual that's given out to officials alongside the rule book. So the rules are not tremendously helpful here because they're kind of vague enough that it makes it sound like if you lose control of the ball at any point, before or after the ball touches the ground, it's incomplete. But if you actually talk to officials, which I did, by the way, for this.
Who did you talk to?
Don't worry about it. If you talk to officials, they're like, no.
IAFL?
No. The point is, if you need to have control while the ball is in contact with the ground, essentially. After that, you can lose control, but as long as you regather it before the play is over, i.e. you go out of bounds.
Because the ground didn't cause the fumble.
Right.
Or the bobble.
So it's only if you lose control of the ball and you don't manage to regather it.
Cut it off.
Incomplete.
No more rules discussion.
Should have been a catch. That's all I'm saying.
Should have been a catch. So Minnesota pulls it off. They fall. They move to 9-2. Patriots now last place in the AFC East at 6-5. Still very much hashtag in the hunt. But the Vikings 9-2 and trying to keep pace with the Eagles for that number 1 seed in the NFL. Lost my place here, but I'm back.
Now we can get to yesterday.
We can, right after I tell you that the PFF NFL podcast is sponsored by Western and Southern Financial Group. While you focus on your roster moves, Western and Southern helps advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, and wondering how to make your money grow? Well, Western and Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to understand needs and address goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. All right, yesterday's 1 o'clock action. Let's start with the Jaguars. Am I saying that the right way? Jaguars. Jaguars. The Jags. 28-27 over the Baltimore Ravens. This was it, Sam. This was the game. Trevor Lawrence did the fourth quarter comeback thing.
Yeah, he did.
So incredible back-to-back game. This was game 1 of 2. The only time in NFL history we saw essentially walk-off 2-point conversions. It wasn't walk-off necessarily, but it was the only time in NFL history 2 games had a game-winning 2-point conversion within the last 10 to 15 seconds, whatever stats and info gave as this arbitrary cutoff to make it look like a cool stat. That's what happened yesterday. The Jags win it with a walk-off 2-point conversion. Baltimore Ravens once again had a 10-point lead.
They did.
And lose.
Somebody should really look into what that is. It's happened quite a lot for Baltimore this season. Yeah. Somebody should check if there's something we're doing that's causing this giant collapse every week from really good leads. You want a really good stat?
Yeah, I do.
First time in Jaguars franchise history that they've won a game after entering the final minute of regulation down 7. You know what the record was at that period?
152.
183.
Felt like 183.
Yeah. So it's now 183.
You tell me Mark Brunell never did that?
Never did it. Which is not, this is not an insurmountable thing. Down 7 in a minute,
it's not a common thing, but it's not insurmountable.
But it's not 183.
Let me go back through my Jags archives. And
like
see
Patrick Mahomes is probably 50-50 on those situations.
That's impressive, man. So, look, I think the narrative on Trevor Lawrence is going to be, look at this kid just, flipping the script and finally doing it. And I have that take. I will say it started with some luck, which was the very first play. So every time Trevor Lawrence has these comeback opportunities, I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this it, right? This is what I always expected from this guy, was the ability to drive the ball down the field and create these incredible game-winning comebacks. And a lot of times it's been, just doesn't go over very well. And earlier this year, same thing. He had the chance against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the very first play, he fumbles, and it was over. Strip sack, there goes the comeback attempt. In this game, there was a bad fumble in the play where Trevor Lawrence tried to do a little too much outside the pocket, tries to throw it, fumbles. But this time the Jags recovered. That was not a good play. That counts, right? That counts in the evaluation of Trevor Lawrence. But after that play, he looked absolutely incredible. I'm talking velocity, decisiveness, and accuracy. I don't believe we've seen that from Trevor Lawrence. And we keep saying this, right? Over the last 3 weeks, new things from Trevor Lawrence, new things from Trevor Lawrence. This was a new thing from Trevor Lawrence, which was game is on the line, go be the number 1 overall pick, go make big-time throws, and he did it. And he led the Jags to victory, and it was really impressive, and this is why Lawrence went number 1 overall.
Yeah, this is a game where his grade is almost certainly not going to match the hype coming out of this game because of what he managed to achieve in the last couple of minutes. And it's also a situation where I think it's right not to, because he had a couple of really bad fumbles in this game. The first one, he escapes the pocket, and then it's one of those ones where he was unaware of the other guy that was bearing down from the opposite side. And not in a way where, there are plays where quarterbacks are not really supposed to expect a guy about to nail them, right? The classic blind side, your left tackle gets whooped, you're at the top of your drop, you have no idea.
You're throwing in rhythm, basically.
And you have no idea that guy is about to destroy you from behind. It's an immediate strip sack fumble. It wasn't on you. You know what I mean? Then there are situations like this one where he breaks the pocket. At the point where you break the pocket and start ad-libbing in the flat, you should know that there's easily the chance that there's another defender out there running from the opposite direction. And he just it never even occurred to him. And he gets nailed by that guy, fumbles the ball. And then the one you're talking about where he tries to do too much was like almost got away with the incomplete pass thing, but didn't quite, got hit before. That's a fumble. Those are 2 really bad plays. And they're both in the second half. Like, they're both in pretty critical times. And he managed to overcome that to lead the big game-winning drive. So he'll get a ton of credit for the game-winning drive, and he should. And I think it's those 2 things can coexist, right? Where he had multiple very bad plays when it came to fumbles, but also did lead a signature drive that he hasn't really done before and looked like that number 1 pick, looked like that generational quarterback talent that he was supposedly like. Those 2 things can exist at the same time.
Yeah, so in this whole thing, if I'm a Jags fan, my big takeaway is look at this guy. I mean, this guy's making the downfield throws that we had expected. I think the sequence at the end is the 3-play sequence at the end is spectacular. There's a lot more to talk about in this game, but I want to start at the end. That's what they do in newspapers, right? They tell you the end and then work your way back to the beginning.
Don't bury the lead.
Yeah, you don't want to bury that. So 3-play sequence at the end, 36 seconds left, throws an absolute dime to Zay Jones, right? In between coverage that gets them right to about the 10-yard line. So big time throw there. I love that they had to run hurry up, but they're running hurry up, right? Everything's got to go quick. And then he throws the ball up and away from coverage to Marvin Jones, who just gets the shin bone in, Sam.
Shin bone.
1 shin equals 2 feet, gets the shin in for the game win, for the touchdown to get within 1 with 18 seconds left. So in a matter of 18 seconds, we see 2 incredible field-flipping throws from Trevor Lawrence. 1 goes for the touchdown. As the play is being reviewed, they're lined up for the extra point. The touchdown's confirmed. They reconsider, go for 2. Lawrence hits that pass for the 2-point conversion as well.
I'm not going to spend time talking about this other than this one statement, because I could spend quite a lot of time talking about this. But the idea that the 1 shin equals in touchdown, but you can get both feet, both toes down, and then if your heel comes down out of bounds with the CeeDee Lamb play on Thanksgiving, the idea that isn't a touchdown, but does not jive in my mind. Like, those should not coexist. They're either both touchdowns or neither of them are touchdowns.
Listen, I know you're making moves in the media world here and everything, and we might be able to reveal some of the.
I'm not sure I can overhaul the NFL rule book.
Some of your strides, but I'll get you on. I'll get you on with Dean Blandino, and you guys can.
Oh yeah.
We'll set up some calls with Dean, and you can hash out your grievances.
No, because I can piss and moan on my own podcast. I don't need Dean's platform to whinge about it.
Dean.
I need the man in charge of the rule book.
Dean's got the ear of the people that are doing that, is what I'm saying. We'll get you the coaches convention. There's 32 invites for the coaches. Well, you'll be, hashtag 33rd coach.
I need somebody. I need those 2 videos queued up, one after the other, and I need somebody to justify it to me.
As I mentioned, there was a lot that happened in this game. I think early on, the Ravens kept settling for field goals. And I guess it's kind of the opposite of what I said in the Cowboys game, where it was like, okay, this game's close, it's close, it's close, and the better team's going to pull away. And the Ravens started to pull away, but man, the Jags kept battling back. In the fourth quarter, they have a 14-play, 75-yard drive to get within 2, right? So they didn't give up. They're not supposed to be as good as the Ravens. They stick with it. They get within 2. A couple plays later, Gus Edwards fumbles. The Jags are immediately in field goal range. They go up 20-19, and then it's like, all right, now it's on Lamar Jackson to make the comeback. Then you talk about changing angles, like Josh Allen throwing the ball. How about Deshaun Jackson still creating big plays?
What is he, 35, still able to run past the defense?
Like, I'm watching that play unfold, and you see 2 defenders, a safety in particular, going to like a landmark where the throw's supposed to be, and Deshaun Jackson's running behind it, right? Isn't that just what he did for
and Lamar to get
years?
It there? Like, it was a 63-yard in the air throw or something like that. It's like,
it was impressive.
Which is about 10 yards further than most quarterbacks are going to put that ball. It's like, it needed Deshaun Jackson to be able to run faster than most deep wide receivers, and it needed Lamar Jackson to be able to put that ball that late in the play that deep in order for that to be the kind of play that happened.
So Lamar Jackson had his big comeback, and the Ravens score a touchdown. They go up 5. They get the 2-point conversion to go up 7, and that was when it set the table for Trevor Lawrence in that last-minute comeback. But it was an awesome back-and-forth game.
The Ravens also made a real mess of a 4th and short earlier in the game, where it feels like, having discovered the cheat code for 4th and short, all teams seem to be overthinking it now. It's
they should change that rule. You shouldn't be able to push.
Okay, but as long as you can, you should be doing that every play, because that's unstoppable at the moment. So as Chris drew up on the broadcast last night, the double cheek push.
Double cheek push.
As long as you can double cheek push, do that every single 4th and short. It's unstoppable. Instead, Baltimore tried to run like an outside zone quarterback sneak. Like, it was like Lamar tried to jump a gap over. It's like, they're stacking the A gaps, so I'm going to try and jump over to the C gap here. That's where the space will be. Only you can't like run laterally on a sneak. So he just got shut down. They didn't get it. Like, stop overthinking the 4th and 3rd and shorts. Like, there's a current cheat code to that. Exploit it until somebody figures out how to stop it.
I mentioned in the offseason that the cheat code, the advantage in the NFL, it's in part going to be, okay, who goes for the 4th downs and steals win probability here and there, but it's who can be good in short yardage, right? Who can actually execute those plays. And I don't think I always say it's a hope, not a strategy, to just be good on the most valuable plays in the NFL. But as you mentioned, on 4th and 1s and 4th and shorts, if you're able to just push your quarterback, we see the Eagles do it. The Eagles failed on 1 when Hurts didn't get that was a weird play. Hurts didn't get the snap, and it ended up in Miles Sanders' hands. But overall, I mean, if you're going to convert 90% of your 4th and shorts, that's an advantage.
And Philadelphia, again, like, in terms of overthinking it, you have the double cheek push. They didn't run it a few times. Like, again, it's unstoppable at the moment. Run it until somebody figures out the solution.
I don't know that it really is, but I mean,
it really is.
It's close.
Jacksonville almost screwed this up after succeeding with the touchdown drive and the 2-point to go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even get to that part.
There's 14 seconds left on the clock, right? And as we've known, or as we've learned from Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson now, that's quite a lot of time on the clock when all you need to do is to get into field goal range, particularly when your field goal kicker is Justin Tucker, who owns the longest field goal in NFL history, right? So Jacksonville decided to squib kick.
They squibbed it instead of just kicking it to the goal line.
Yes. Not even the goal line, out the end zone.
No.
Yes.
That was the mistake the Bills made. That was the mistake. So basically, if there's 14 seconds left, the receiving team essentially has 2 plays, right? And the 2 plays are either going to be run on offense, or one's going to be the kick return and one's going to be on offense. So I think that's where the Jags had it right, which was make one of the plays be the special teams play.
But I think
the issue is the squib is so short.
Yes.
Right? That now it's essentially like you already ran that good offensive play. You're already at the 40, right? You want to kick it to the 1, make them return it, take 8-9 seconds off the clock, whatever that would be. maybe it's 4 or 5 seconds left, and then the offense only has pretty much one play.
I mean, I think you can debate whether you should make them return it conventionally or just not even risk the kick return, kick it out of the end zone, and let them start from the 25. I think that's because in theory, you still shouldn't be giving up that much space on 2 plays the way the Bills did. Like, you can play a little bit tighter than that. But okay, sure. Let's drop it at the 1, drop it at the goal line and make them return it. What you can't do is squib it to the 35, let them pick up 5 quick yards before anything happens, and immediately they're set up shop at their own 40. Now they only need to go like 15 yards. Like, it's one play. And that's exactly what happened. They got their one play, and then all of a sudden Justin Tucker is taking a shot from 67. But like that, you gave them 15 yards of field position for nothing.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, the shorter squib was, I think, a mistake. But Justin Tucker lines up for 67. You're like, man, this is going to happen, isn't it? It's different not being in a dome. 67's still a boot.
Yeah.
Tucker ends up short, but it was right on line.
It really was.
Again, it looked like it might
he
get
had
there.
it, and it just dropped. It was a bit short, to be fair. But
No, it was. I'm just saying, like, you're watching on broadcast. It's like, well, it's straight enough.
Yeah,
this
and
guy's
he
got
has the leg for it.
Right. But it shows the difference, I think, of being in a dome versus chicken on grass.
I think it also just shows how freaking far 67,
Plus 67
yards is. Like,
just, yeah.
you need to catch it perfectly to hit it 67.
For sure. So look, Baltimore, still a very good team, but you're right, man. Keep blowing those late leads. Figure out what's happening there. I mean, part of it's Gus Edwards fumbles, right? I mean, there's these plays are adding up there. Ravens fall to 7-4. Jags move to 4-7. Even though Best Ball Mania has ended, Underdog Fantasy is still the easiest and most fun way to spice up your football season with their Pick'em game. Just look for your favorite or least favorite player stats. Pick whether you think they'll end up with a higher or lower total than that number in this week's game, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players for your Pick'em entry, get all your picks right, and you'll take home some cold, hard cash. It's simple to get started. You just head to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app. Sign up with the promo code PFF, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code PFF. Get in on the action today. All right, let's stay AFC North, and let's go Cleveland Browns 23, Tampa Bay Bucs 17. Feels like the Browns stole this game late. We've got the Browns are down 7. It's 4th and 9. Last play of the game. If it fails, the Bucs essentially win. Mm-hmm. And a great catch, David Njoku. Pretty good throw. Jacoby Brissett up and away from coverage over Devin White, the best linebacker in the NFL. And I'm just saying that's how he's always referred to. Every time he made some good hustle plays yesterday.
He did well, sure. He also made one of the dumbest plays of the week where he shoved Brissett out of bounds while it's chasing him. Like
Jonathan Vilma was absolutely loving Devin White. Everyone loves Devin White, no matter how well he plays. Anyway, David Njoku makes an incredible one-handed catch to put the Browns at 17-16. I really thought the Browns were going to go for 2 here. I thought they were going to go for 2 for the win. They're 3-7. They got nothing to lose, but they kicked the extra point. Bucs have one last opportunity, can't really get into field goal range at the end of the game, go to overtime. Both teams have a couple possessions, and it's the Browns who end up almost tied. It was almost a tie. Little busted coverage, though, put the Browns right at the goal line. Nick Chubb runs it in for the game-winning touchdown, 23-17 Browns.
Yeah, there were only like seconds left on the clock in overtime when Chubb went in for his touchdown. There's just a sort of irony to this week where a week ago, Jacoby Brissett got screwed out of 2, maybe 3 touchdowns by tight ends not being able to come up with the catch. And then this time, do or die play, David Njoku makes one of the catches of the season to snag an absolute bullet out of the air, one-handed in the back of the end zone. It's just amazing the variance involved when a quarterback puts the ball in the air. Like, this can go anywhere from stone-handed drop, where we're getting nothing, to what's, a pretty good pass getting richly rewarded with an absolutely absurd snag that most tight ends are simply not even capable of making.
Yeah, Bucs look stunned at that point once Njoku makes that catch because you got to keep playing, right? Bucs were expecting, they're one play away from winning. The Bucs offense, I think, ultimately is the culprit here, though, right? I mean, they score early.
They look good early and then just hit that malaise where they didn't keep going.
Right. So Rachaad White had a 35-yard run early on, right? He's been more explosive, better than Leonard Fournette. Other than that, he had about 30 yards on 13 carries. So you're talking about this was bad against bad, right? The Bucs have one of the worst run games in NFL history, bad run blocking unit against one of the worst run defenses that we've seen in NFL history. And the Browns won, right? Outside of one play and then like a Julio Jones end around, the Browns won up front. And it forced the Bucs to be one-dimensional once again. Brady had a couple throws that he missed. He was sharp early on, and then he started missing open throws. He had chances to maybe win the game in overtime to Mike Evans. He had a wide-open seam route that he missed. Brady started missing throws that he wasn't missing earlier in the game. So to me, this is the offense, actually. The Bucs letting them down. And this was every week it's like the Bucs narrative. Okay, where's the get-right game? Are they going to turn it around? Chris Godwin looked healthy again, and he's looking better. But it's not mattering, right? They're still not putting together this full game, even against a Browns defense. So
they're also
that's it, man.
They don't help themselves with play calling. And it's like, look, to me, part of the advantage of having Tom Brady at quarterback, 157 years of experience, seen everything, done everything, understands how to win games like this, he should probably have quite a large voice in the decisions of when you go for it, when you kick, when you like that kind of stuff. So like at one point early in the fourth quarter, I think the Bucs are up 17-10, 3rd and 11 from the Cleveland 46. They get Tom Brady picks up 9 of the 11 yards, right, to Cameron Brate. So it's now 4th and 2 from the Cleveland 37, which is right in that range of it's not really a field goal. It's not really a punt. It's the classic like go for it territory because it's just sort of awkward field position. And at 4th and 2, it feels like an ideal spot given the situation they're in. Instead, they end up getting a delay of game penalty and then punt it from Cleveland's 42 into the end zone. So it's a touchback, and you end up picking up a net like awful yardage. Whereas if you'd gone for it, picked it up, maybe you go up 2 touchdowns and kind of put the game to bed.
And 2 plays later, the Browns were immediately in field goal range.
Right.
I mean, they were immediately well past where they would have gotten the ball on a failed fourth
But I don't
down.
know what the hierarchy or what the decision-making tree looks like right now. But if I can't imagine Brady was in love with that sequence. Brady gets 9 of the 11 yards. He came out to
do the whole, try to draw him off sides deal.
Yeah, I can't imagine Brady was in love with that. And if Brady is pitching to go for it, in that situation, maybe listen to him. I mean, he kind of knows what he's doing.
I don't even think it's a Brady thing. I mean, this was a go. This isn't new age football.
No, but
this was a go 15, 20 years ago.
But don't you think that Brady should have a greater input into that decision than like Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he did. I mean, that was the reason why they won the Super Bowl is Brady fought back on 4th and 3 in the NFC Championship against the Packers. They scored a touchdown.
So you're right. It's a bad call anyway, right? It's egregious play calling, sort of determination of game plan. But in this situation, you have a quarterback who should probably be fighting, who probably is or should be fighting back against that, and happens to be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game with 1 million years of experience, a lot more experience, by the way, than you have doing that gig. So maybe listen.
Yeah. The problem is, look, who benefits from going for it on 4th down? Good offenses and bad offenses, right? Good offenses because you're giving them more opportunities to score. Bad offenses because they need more opportunities to score, right? That's the tough thing to get across here.
So one more thing.
To a defensive coach like Todd Bowles.
Can you explain what the hell happened in the final 30 seconds of regulation?
So that was after the Browns scored.
So the Browns scored with that one-handed Njoku touchdown. They tie the game 17-17. Tampa Bay gets the ball. They kick it into the end zone, touchback.
Yep.
So Tampa Bay has 32 seconds to work with, right? And as we discussed, 14 seconds, it turns out, is enough time to get into field goal range. 32 seconds is therefore a luxurious amount of time. So Brady did the typical.
Start with a screen pass.
Right, which is the typical Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, let's just get a positive play here, right? Start it off with a positive play, and then we can start moving. So they do a screen pass. Okay, it doesn't go anywhere. It's a 1-yard thing. And they don't call a timeout.
Yeah.
They just they just let the clock burn for
that
15
part
seconds.
I have no idea how you let that happen.
So then the next play.
Because the next play, big time throw, there's your 2-layer throw that you need, right? To get into field goal range, you need at least one behind the linebacker, in front of the safety type of throws. Brady makes that play, makes that throw to Julio Jones.
But all of a sudden, you've burned all your time because you pissed away 15 seconds not calling a timeout after the first play.
But even then, you're at the 48. You have time for another one of those, right? And it's just a shallow cross to Cameron Brate. It gets knocked out, and then you have a failed Hail Mary attempt, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, the Bucs should have run that better as well. Absolutely. It was bad, man. I think the Bulls going for it. So all that said, right, there was a play earlier in the game where they did actually go for it on 4th and 1 in their own territory, and Brady snuck it, and they got the 4th and 1. And I think it was Jonathan Vilma on color who was questioning that call, right? And it's like these are 4th and like just these are natural here. These are
greatest QB sneak quarterback of all time.
Yeah, they had nobody in the A gap. That's a gimme, right? You keep the ball, and that was actually one of the possessions. Like, people need to rehash this stuff. Like, the Bucs scored on that possession, and they're still talking about, like, I still don't really agree with that 4th and 1 decision. That just led to points, right? So, yeah, Todd Bowles punting at the Cleveland 37, right? Here's what happens in the defensive coach's mind, right? He's like, I got it. We'll take the delay of game. I'm going to punt it. We're going to pin him inside the 5. Yeah. I'm calling a good game, right? They're not doing much with the passing game. They're not moving the ball. Like, we're going to win with our defense. I like the way my defense is playing, right? But at some point,
I've never understood that logic.
You could score points with your offense, not your defense. You have to put more points on the board.
But also, if your defense is playing that well, then that's all the more reason to take the risk of giving the opposing team good field position. Like, if your defense is playing amazingly and you trust them to shut them down, then take the risk that you're going to give the opposition the ball at the 37 as opposed to the 25, right? What difference does the 12 yards make to you at that point? Because your defense is playing lights out. Yeah. Let's trust them to make that stop.
Part of the issue is you're picturing perfect execution, right? You're envisioning your punter comes in and puts them right at the 5. You're envisioning after that happens, you force a 3 and out and get the ball back. Like, this is all going through your head. You're expecting the best outcome, right? I mean, it's like playing blackjack and just assuming you're going to get the card. No matter what the odds are, you're just assuming
that's what I do. Is that
you're going to get what you need. It's me making picks every week, right? I paint a picture in my head. Here's how the game's going to go, and nothing. I'm not going to deviate from it, right? And I miss all my picks, right? So that's what's happening here. Instead of saying, I know I'm a defensive coach, but the odds that the Browns are going to, make a first down and be right back where they would be if there was a failed 4th down are pretty high. The odds that my punter might punt it in the end zone, fairly high.
I have 3 more things that I want to cover in this game quickly.
Okay, go.
Number 1, Browns rookie cornerback Martin Emerson balling.
Yeah, so I agree. There was one, I think Brady missed Evans for what could have been like a walk-off.
Has he changed his name, by the way? They were calling him MJ.
They were calling him
Emerson.
MJ. Yeah, I don't like when that happens.
No.
I don't like when people change their names.
10 targets,
I don't know.
2 catches, 10 yards with 2 pass breakups.
He was being physical with Mike Evans. I thought he was doing a very good job there.
He did the Marshawn Lattimore gig against Mike Evans.
And Lattimore's coming up next week on Monday night. If Lattimore comes back for Monday Night Football. Yes, Emerson had an excellent game.
Number 2, Jacoby Brissett. Number 1, pancaked Antoine Winfield Jr. on Anthony Schwartz's run for the touchdown. Number 2, we should take a moment to credit Jacoby Brissett, who this will be his final game. Deshaun Watson will start the next time they play. Okay, the Browns didn't win enough games, but Jacoby Brissett is going to end this run with a PFF grade in the 80s, which is a career best grade for him by some distance, and particularly if you compare it to the previous times where he's effectively been the starter, where his grades were in the 50s and 60s. This was, I think, better than you could possibly have expected a run of this many games with Jacoby Brissett to go. He has played his part, and the Browns team around him just hasn't been good enough to win as many games as they thought they were going to win. Like, I think Jacoby Brissett just deserves a tremendous amount of credit for this run he's had, and now the guy's just going to get kicked to the curb while they go to Deshaun Watson because of all of the money they've invested in him.
No, I agree. Brissett's played really well. There was a point where I thought the key play in the game was going to be a dropped, was it 4th down by Amari Cooper or 3rd down, like wide open pass by Amari Cooper. I think it was on 3rd and long that I thought was going to end the Browns' hopes of winning this game. But Brissett kept bouncing back, made plays, and he did have a very good run here with the Browns.
And by the way, has also been done it in a very classy manner, has been,
Yeah.
and probably doesn't need to be watched around people, in a way that the next quarterback might. Last thing I want to cover, Tristan Wirfs got carted off, but sounds like it's not actually as bad as it looked.
It did look bad. Was that, who was that
It
leaped?
was JOK trying to leap over the cornerback, or not the corner, the running back who was picking up the blitz. And I don't know what
at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, well, he was blitzing and tried to sort of leap over the back, who decided to basically tackle his legs in the air, which is illegal. Like, that's not – I was trying to work out what the penalty flag should be, but there should definitely be a flag on that. Like, he tries to leap over him, and the guy sort of goes, well, I'm just not going to let you make this play, so I'm going to grab your ankles while you're 6 feet in the air. And then his prone corpse falling to the ground from 9 foot up landed on Tristan Wirfs' ankle. And you're like, wow, that's bad. The way there's just the physics involved, right? Your 300-pound frame careering into your car door has inevitably left a large dent in the side of it that you can't
we'll find
yet
out
see.
after.
David Njoku's 225-pound frame coming down from 8 foot in the air, landing on somebody's ankle.
JOK.
Sorry, JOK.
Yeah.
Has inevitably done damage there.
They didn't show the replay. I saw it after. They didn't show the replay on the broadcast, but yeah, I saw it after end zone view.
Yeah, so
Looked bad for Wirfs.
looked really bad,
yeah.
but apparently the X-rays are negative. He's in a boot. They're much more optimistic now than they were when they were carting him into the locker room, which would be huge, by the way, because if they lost Tristan Wirfs, I would say they're basically done.
I mean, they're already in serious trouble, but I mean, they're 5-6. Bucs still lead the NFC
That's
South.
the thing. So the entire division is under 500, but again, this team is going to host a playoff game, probably.
Right. But if you're a Bucs fan and you're thinking, okay, they've won 2 straight, they're coming off a bye, they're going to get it right. Julio's going to get healthier, and Chris Godwin's going to get healthier, and the offense is going to look good. That lasted about 2.5 quarters, and you're starting to run out of time to get everything right in Tampa Bay. Browns moved to 4-7, and Deshaun Watson, as you mentioned, will be back this week. All right, let's go. Carolina Panthers 23, Denver Broncos 10. The Panthers moved to 4-8. Broncos fall to 3-8. Another sad showing for the Broncos offense.
It really was.
But Sam Darnold came in and balled out.
Sam Darnold looked pretty good.
He did.
Which is, it feels like it should be notable, except we've now seen, P.J. Walker looked pretty good for a couple of games. Like, everybody seemed to have like a brief period where they look okay. I mean, even, when P.J. struggled, then in came Baker Mayfield, who looked better, and then that lasted 4 minutes.
This was similar to the P.J. Walker game against the Bucs, where they scored 21 points, and Walker had 4 or 5 big-time throws, and it was like, hey, where was that? I mean, that was Darnold. He had some really nice downfield passes. He just looked a little bit better, confident. It was 20 dropbacks, right? So there's a couple ways to look at this. We will never overreact to 20 dropbacks here at PFF. Never, right? On the other hand, we've seen the Geno Smith rejuvenation. We just mentioned what Jacoby Brissett did on an 11-game run. I mean, it's not beyond the wit of man. Is it beyond the realm of possibility that a Sam Darnold has become a new person after, his injury in year 5 or whatever it is. But we're not there yet.
He also passed for 22 yards more than Russell Wilson, who, is being
he's doubled his yards per attempt.
It's another week of
I'm just saying,
Russell Wilson ineptitude,
Darnold looked pretty good against a pretty good pass defense.
No, he did. And look, the thing about this Panthers offense now is it is actually not a bad situation for a quarterback. Like, the biggest problem early was that their offensive line was a disaster, and it didn't really matter that they have DJ Moore and all the other receivers that they had, because the line wasn't good enough for it to hold up, and the system was a joke. The offensive line is fine now. They still have DJ Moore, who wrecked Patrick Surtain 2.0 down the sideline for his second big play in a couple of weeks that Surtain has given up. So DJ Moore is out here still making plays, quarterback proof. The offensive line is way better. Deontay Foreman is making plays on the ground. Like, this offense is actually not a bad situation for a quarterback to be in anymore, which is probably why somebody like P.J. Walker can come in and have a couple of good games, which is why it makes it even more bewildering that Baker Mayfield is completely unable to play any kind of capable football this season. But also means that the people that were standing Sam Darnold a year ago are like, it's Sam Darnold's time to shine. Like, it isn't actually a situation where it's a situation where he should be able to look okay.
Yeah, so far so good on that end. On the other side, man, Broncos with 246 net yards. I mean, the Panthers defense, outside of a couple lulls, have been solid, right? They've been solid this year. They've had a few horrible mishaps, but just no rhythm again from the Broncos. And then they get into the red zone.
Yeah.
And they're inventing new ways to not score.
They really are. Two things can be true at the same time again, which is, number one, Denver's offense has got quite a lot of injuries that they're dealing with, none of which have helped. The running backs, for example. Like, they went into the year with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon as like this really good 1-2 punch, albeit a 1-2 punch where people were complaining about the split. All of the running backs in this game were guys that were on practice squads to start the year, various practice squads, So their running backs now are Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack. It's like, so that's a problem. But Russell Wilson is being paid $250 million a year. You just traded a boatload for him. He's supposed to be able to overcome a lot of this kind of stuff. He has overcome a lot of this kind of stuff in his career in Seattle. And again, like, some of the revisionist history is out of this world. Like, people acting like, well, Russ has never had any talent. He was just carried, to success by Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. You're like, okay, come on. You don't need to watch very much Seahawks football in the last decade to see how much Russ was doing and how much he was a part of the success, and at times carrying that team as opposed to being carried. The guy that we're watching right now is not the same human being. And I think that's a problem. I think the way the scheme has gone league-wide is a problem. I think Nathaniel Hackett's offense and the way it meshes with Russell Wilson is a problem. And all of this is being magnified by the fact that Russell Wilson apparently is not the sort of natural-born leader that maybe you need at quarterback, particularly when things are going south.
So look, we could spend the whole show and the whole offseason. We'll spend plenty of time in the offseason discussing what do the Broncos do, how do they maximize Russell Wilson? Because as you mentioned, I mean, they're paying him.
Stuck with him.
They're with him the next few years.
It's like $120 million in dead money if they tried to cut him next year. It's like $85 million in dead money if they try to cut him the year after that. So he's there for a while.
You just have to wonder how much the scheme and because we said, what's the biggest story of the season? How's Nathaniel Hackett? How are Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson going to mesh, right? How are they going to work together this season? The Broncos are going to have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, maybe Russell Wilson was very good and talented when he was with the Seahawks. We know that, right? But how much did Pete Carroll and all the various offensive coordinators and the coaching staff, the Brian Schottenheimers of the world that kind of got, pooed on by the Atlanta analytics community for running the ball too much and all this stuff. How much did they know and really say, I know the concepts that Russ is going to run, that he's going to run well, and build the offense around him? Is this that Michael Vick, hey, we're just going to put him in the West Coast offense? We're just going to put him in the West Coast offense, and it's just, square peg, round hole type of thing. The Broncos have to go back to that. What did Seattle do to maximize Russ as a starting point?
Yeah.
And then the other part is, he also doesn't look the same,
right?
Physically.
That's the issue is, okay, even if we went back to that, even if we just ran like a variant of what he was running in Seattle where he was successful, is he even capable of doing that anymore? Like, the touchdown that he scored or that he threw to Greg Dulcich looked like vintage Russ, right? Like, avoid some traffic in the pocket, run around, wait till the guy uncovers, hit him with the touchdown, only you dithered so long it was holding and it didn't count. That's like, I don't know if he's even capable of doing those things anymore. He doesn't look athletically the way he used to when he was able to do all that kind of stuff. And the difference between a Russell Wilson and a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers when they get up in years, and Russ is nowhere near where those guys are, but he did rely on his athleticism quite a lot, not necessarily to, go Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen and run the ball like crazy, but to run around behind the line of scrimmage and avoid traffic and avoid pressure and then make a play. If he's not able to do that anymore, that is a major problem for what he can achieve. And by the way, the reason that should be dramatically concerning is we're not talking about a guy who's like not taking care of himself. Like, remember,
he's on the RW3 plan or
right.
whatever.
Now, this may all be, Brand Russell putting out the PR, but the man's allegedly been spending $1 million a year on like body recovery and, maintaining his physical ability. If that's resulted in this, he's screwed because there's no like margin. There's no like, oh, well, it's okay. You just have to work on this stuff now that you're old. He's been working on it for the last decade and it's still in rack and ruin. Like that's a major problem.
All that said, Russell Wilson with his 4th best grade of the season yesterday as the Broncos come away with 10 points. Do you want to address the Russ getting yelled at by his defense?
So Mike Purcell came off the field, I think it was after a defensive stop, and was sort of heading to the sideline and then about-faced, turned to the right, and just starts screaming at Russell Wilson, who, didn't seem too put out by it. But anyway, so it's very difficult to know. Russell Wilson was pumped about it. He thought it was great. When he was asked about it, he thought they made a stop. They were excited. He came and he was jazzed to try and get the offense up to the same level. What I really hope happened is that the defense was walking off the field, grinding their way through this game, right? They're getting a couple of big plays here and there. They're giving up a little bit more than they're used to. It's Sam Darnold. You're not feeling great. The offense is still getting nothing done every week. And Russ probably said, let's ride to him. And that just set him off,
Kind of looked like
made him snap.
Russ kind of looked like he nodded and said, all right, let's ride.
Yeah, but who knows? Anything could have happened.
Yeah.
I'm
usually anti that, right? I'm the one who pushes back. Let's not put words into people's mouth. But I think there's a better than average chance that Russ just looked at him and said, you're right, let's ride.
I mean, look, given the way Russ has said let's ride to seemingly every scenario this season, it seems pretty likely that at some point.
We're just playing the odds here.
Right. The other thing that struck me about that, now look, this is one of those ones where camera perspective and things can make, it looked like Nathaniel Hackett was standing 2 feet in front of that and did not even acknowledge that it happened. It was just like, nothing's going on. Nobody's yelling at my star quarterback right behind me. Now, look, it's a zoom lens taken from a million miles in the opposite direction. It makes two things look very close together even when they're not. But I think it's interesting if you were standing right in front of that and it was just like, yeah, nothing's going on here. I got my headset. I'm locked in. I'm focused. I'm not wasting my time with this. Can I give you a stat?
Yeah, please.
Field Yates, Denver's offense has now scored 14.3 points per game, which is the worst total of any team since the 2000 Cleveland Browns.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
That was year 2 of Tim Couch.
So if you are the Denver defense, I think you could justifiably be getting quite pissed off at this point.
Man, after investing in Russell Wilson. Not good.
This is the thing, though. They are so screwed because of how attached they are to that contract. We're reaching the point, and look, maybe Russ is 100% true and transparent when he's conveying what happened. Maybe that looked way different than it actually was. Maybe Mike is all about Trent. Now, I also saw a quote from Mike Purcell that didn't quite make it feel as, happy and collaborative as that. It was more like...
Shocking.
Yeah. It wasn't... Yeah, I lit into him because I was pissed off that the offense sucks, but it was like, yeah, look, we need everybody to get on the same. Anyway,
dude, people are fired up. It's
whatever.
Probably like, hey, let's go score some points.
My point being, this world of everybody tearing into Russell Wilson because apparently nobody likes the brand Russ and the corner office and his teammates appear to hate him, right? Past or present. We just saw what happened with the Jets locker room. Zach Wilson lost that locker room in a week, effectively. Now, I'm sure it was building, but this offense is going worse, and the defense is probably playing better than the Jets. And Russell Wilson is on more money, and there's a lot more elements of toxicity involved in this. And you're not the Jets are less attached to Zach Wilson, their number 2 overall pick from a year ago, than the Broncos are attached to Russell Wilson for the next 2 years. There is a world where this goes to a deep, dark place.
We'll talk about it in the offseason. I mean, they might be calling up the Brian Schottenheimers of the world. Like anybody that's worked with Russ recently in the past 10 years that's had success.
Yeah, I mean, look, the obvious.
Darryl Bevel, get over here.
The most obvious thing to happen is that Nathaniel Hackett is made a sacrificial lamb, and they try and find a new head coach. But I honestly, we can't be a million miles away from them saying, okay, it's 100 and something million dead money. It's probably still better. Like, how far are we from them deciding the pain, the record-setting pain of this cap hit, if we got rid of Russell Wilson, might actually be worth it?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Like, remember,
we're not ready for that.
We thought Matt Ryan's contract was untradeable because of the giant sum of dead money they rearranged to extend him. I mean, this is worse than that, but it's the same idea.
The interesting thing is there'll always be someone desperate enough to rejuvenate him, right?
Ooh,
to be like, we'll bring him in. There's going to be enough desperate teams around the NFL. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is my go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Check it out. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets, like which team will win, player props, point totals, and more. You can throw Russell Wilson in the under on passing yards in there, whatever it might be, as well as the Broncos losing, right? Those are the types of things you could do. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code PFF. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with the code PFF. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details. All right, we got the Cincinnati Bengals 20, Tennessee Titans 16. Bengals move to 7-4. Titans fall to 7-4. Titans, as our guy Timo tweeting out a little bit about the Titans this season, essentially dominating teams that don't have winning records, and now you see them losing to the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Giants, teams that do have winning records. We've been giving the Titans a lot of credit this season, but I think as things are starting to unfold, we're seeing them maybe not being in that top echelon of the AFC teams. What do you think?
But don't you think that they've hung tight against those better teams?
Oh, absolutely.
Like this was a knife edge game.
The overtime game against the Chiefs, where Malik Willis was the quarterback, that always stands out to me.
Right.
The way they could play, right?
And this was a knife edge game that came down to a couple of plays late, and they're the kind of big plays that Cincinnati got to ice this game were, generally speaking, the plays that the Titans had been making earlier. They were good coverage plays that have been limiting the Bengals offense. Like, they basically just went, we need a big play. We don't have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, you're up. And tossed the ball to T. Higgins a few times, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, that was watching this game, it wasn't completely different from his season Joe Burrow tendencies or whatever, but it felt like they were just saying, we're going to attack outside the numbers here. When we see one-on-ones, we're gonna throw the deep out, we're going to throw the back shoulder, we're going to throw these outside lane type of throws for Joe Burrow. And he hit a bunch with T. Higgins, including the game-winning touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, the T. Higgins emergence, I think, is the biggest story for the Bengals. Not that he hasn't done that before, and he was solid last year and everything, but being the go-to guy right now these last couple weeks. And there was a couple weeks where Tyler Boyd was the go-to guy, and they used Tyler Boyd to solve some of their issues against too high, and they worked the middle of the field with him. We've seen Hayden Hurst make some plays. We've seen the running backs, Samaje Perine with the 3 touchdowns last week against the Steelers, and Joe Mixon being out with a concussion, Perine taking the majority of the workload here for the Bengals. It's just good to see other players step up if you're a Bengals fan, right? And seeing this isn't just a team that last year had a lot of games where they were just this mid-tier offense that would just add a 65-yarder to Jamar Chase, which is great. It's nice to have that in the bag. But now the Bengals, better, more well-rounded offense, and having the success, it's 20 points for whatever it's worth. But it's against a tough Titans defense, and pulling off these games and seeing T. Higgins go 7 catches for $114 in the game-winning touchdown bodes well, I think, for what Cincinnati can do.
Yeah, the T. Higgins thing, I think, is huge because he basically justified the talk that people have had for a long time, which is, the Bengals don't just have one number one receiver in Jamar Chase. They've got two. Higgins is a number one receiver on most offenses. You're like, well, he wasn't really before Jamar Chase arrived, and Jamar Chase draws quite a crowd. So is that just a product of that? Well, the last couple of weeks, there's been no Chase. There hasn't been Joe Mixon for most of it. So it has been T. Higgins. Like, he's been the guy that had to be the number one with all the attention focused on him, and he's done it. Like, two big games where he's shown up and made a bunch of big plays for them. I think that's huge. Like, he justified the hype that had been surrounding him and showed that the Bengals have other options. Like, if they get into a playoff run and teams figure out how to stop Jamar Chase, if they run into one of those teams that's seen him before and isn't going to get surprised by him and they shut him down, they know that they can go to T. Higgins on the backside and attack a number two corner and absolutely destroy the guy. Or if teams figure out how to stop Joe Mixon in the run game, like they now have options on offense to beat teams in a lot of different ways. And that's pretty important to them. And after a ugly start to the season, they're in the playoff spots now.
There's a question in the chat. Is T. Higgins the best 50-50 jump ball receiver since Mike Evans? And I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I think Higgins is starting to play that above. The thing that makes Mike Evans special is the body type is rare. Right? The body type and the speed it's just different, right? I think Mike Evans is kind of like overrated and underrated all at the same time, I think. And you kind of see that within a game. There's times where he just disappears. Marshawn Lattimore yesterday with Emerson. Then other times it's like, man, Mike Evans, that was incredible. I think Higgins has some of that where his body type is just different, right? His catch radius is different enough. And that's why I think that's such an awesome compliment when Chase is out there and when Tyler Boyd is out there. And the Bengals, as they're building these next 8 to 10 years around Joe Burrow, should always try to keep those options intact as much as they can, as much as you can financially keep those options intact. And I think, it's huge to see Higgins winning on the outside the way he has been. On the other side, weird game, the Titans touchdown was the screen pass to Derrick Henry.
Classic other touchdown. It's not a rushing touchdown. It's not a receiving touchdown. It is an other.
Cam Taylor-Britt makes the hustle force fumble. Ball lands in the end zone, gets recovered by the Titans for the touchdown. But the Titans' passing attack essentially had that 69-yarder to Derrick Henry and Treylon Burks, 51-yarder down the field. Other than that, not a great offensive effort from the Titans. Not that you want to take away those big plays, but I'm just saying it was not a great offensive effort by the Titans. And the difference in this one for Tennessee is they finally got stopped. Like, they got stopped consistently in the red zone. The Bengals played really good red zone defense, tight coverage, tight window throws, couple drops by the Titans, but it all added up to the Tennessee Titans. We were like, hey, why are they good? Why are they good? Well, whenever they get in the red zone, they score. Right. Well, they didn't in this game, and that was the difference.
Well, you know why?
Why?
It's because their streak got broken by the
kneel.
Uh-huh.
The kneel down on Thursday Night Football last week screwed them up.
Yep, should have scored a touchdown on those. And then you'd have kept the streak alive, and you wouldn't mess with momentum. You can't screw with momentum. Momentum's a fickle bitch, Steve. You screw with her by kneeling it down in the red zone instead of scoring a touchdown again, and now you're 15-1. In fact, you're not even fit. You're a streak of 0, nothing. You're nowhere. So how could you possibly expect them to score in the red zone against the Bengals?
They should have tried to run it up against the Packers.
That's what I'm saying.
They should have tried to run it up. Bengals D did a really nice job, though. Like I said, outside of those, busted coverage on the screen pass and, Treylon Burks going up and, playing Randy Moss, did a nice job bottling up Derrick Henry, 17 carries for 38 yards. Just to go back to the Bengals offense for a minute, their pass protection was really good as well. To be able to, Burrow wasn't exactly getting the ball out all that quickly, but he was getting the ball, having time to throw the ball outside the numbers. So,
and then, of course, the other element here is, in this razor close game, they were going to get a shot with a minute and a bit to go to try and, come back and tie.
It's a personal foul.
Yeah, and then they can the center, which is on the field goal attempt.
Yeah.
Which is something you can't do. And haven't been able to do for a while, and it was a really egregious one, like just a bad, dumb, stupid penalty cost them the game,
Yeah.
So,
I'm not trying to I shouldn't make overarching statements about the Titans in such a close, hard-fought battle here, Sam. Sorry.
Yes, that's true. You shouldn't.
I apologize to the Titans and their fans.
Good.
Did you have anything else
No,
this?
just that was silly. They shouldn't have done that. They might have had a shot to win the game.
So, with all of this, Bengals, huge win for them against a very tough Titans team, and with the Ravens blowing their 10-point lead once again, we're talking 2 7-4 teams sitting atop the AFC North.
So the wild card spots now in the AFC. Buffalo, who, by the way, they're keeping pace with Kansas City, but they also still need to win their own division, which they're not doing right now. Cincinnati, the number 6 seed, what did they start? 0-2?
0-2 teams. I mean, the Bengals can't make the playoffs because they started 0-2. 0-2 teams almost never make the playoffs, so we already know that.
Also, by the way, if you were, again, things that would have seemed silly before the season, if you were sort of reviewing which of the Super Bowl teams was most likely to suffer a Super Bowl hangover and be nowhere near the playoffs, you would say it was Cincinnati rather than the Rams. The Rams look dismal and disastrous right now, and the Bengals are in the 6th seed. And then the Jets, number 7 seed.
Speaking of those Jets, 31-10 over the Chicago Bears. Instead of the battle of the 2021 quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, we got Mike White versus Trevor Siemian. There was a point we thought Nathan Peterman might be the starter.
Just thank your lucky stars that it wasn't Nathan Peterman.
So Siemian got the start for the Bears. Clearly their offense, they got off to a decent start, but it was not the same. Darnell Mooney gets injured in this game for the Bears. But, of course, the story here is going to be Mike White and the Jets, right? He comes in and, much like last year, the offense looks completely different. Now, it happened last year against the Bengals, right? Against a good team. Mike White came in and he hit the easy stuff. Robert Saleh, after the game, he said he made the easy stuff look easy. That was the quote.
Description of it.
That was it. Mike White executed the offense. I mean, his second pass, it was just, there's a blitz coming, throws a little 5-yard stick route right behind him. He threw the hot route behind the blitz. I mean, simple stuff like that we've been saying, Zach Wilson's not doing that. We saw it yesterday. Now, look, the stat line was incredible for Mike White. The stat line is not going to match his contribution to the production here, right? So, looking forward to that one. Like, he wasn't a 90 quarterback. He wasn't graded at 90
I don't
for
think
us,
anybody,
but he was very good in this
anybody
game.
that watched that game understands that. Like, unless you are – the only people that are going to argue with that grade are horrifically biased Jets fans.
Well, wait for your mentions soon.
I'm just saying.
He was good. He had a good grade.
His own coach doesn't think he played that well. Like, his own coach's analysis of this game was he made the easy stuff look easy. It's like, like he went and took what was there. He gave the ball to Garrett Wilson, who sidestepped somebody and then outran everybody for a touchdown. Like, that's not a massively impressive play from Mike White. Like, he played fine. He did well. He made the easy stuff look easy, and that was the thing that Zach Wilson was unable to do, which is just take the layups.
Yeah.
But it's not like nobody is coming out of this game who doesn't have a massive axe to grind or is just blinded by green, tinted glasses and saying, oh, Mike White was incredible. It was amazing. No, like Mike White was fine. He was reasonable. He'll have a reasonable grade.
There's also perspective, right? I mean, Mike White played well. Let's not diminish what he did. He played extremely well and essentially only missed a couple throws, got away with one. I mean, there should be a pick in there. He throws one late that should be a pick 6. You take that one out, the grade probably is in the 90s. It probably is up there, right? All I'm saying is you got to see what this offense is capable of. He at least got the ball into Garrett Wilson's hands so that he could look special.
Garrett Wilson
got the ball into Elijah Moore's hands so that he could look special. Tyler Conklin, like these guys that the Jets have invested in the last 2 years, Mike White was able to move in the pocket when there's pressure, throw the ball on time, get the ball to their playmakers, and the Jets offense looked fantastic, albeit against a Bears defense that's already bad, didn't have Kyler Gordon, didn't have the great Jaquan Brisker, didn't have some of their players. It's fine. You can only execute against who you're playing against, but you just saw what this Jets offense is capable of.
That's an important point overall, which is, look, this is why I was surprised that they made this switch, because the Bears defense is bad, and this was a get-right spot for whoever was a quarterback for the Jets. So it should make him look good, and he looked good.
Chris Sims said the same thing on Football Night in America, just so you know. You and Chris are on the same page.
Good for Chris. Garrett Wilson looks amazing with any quarterback other than Zach Wilson throwing him the football. Like, he looked incredible when Joe Flacco was throwing him the ball. He looks incredible with Mike White throwing him the ball. He looks like by far the best rookie wide receiver if he simply has a quarterback there, and for half the year he hasn't. Some of the stats coming out of this game, though, are hilarious, which is Mike White. This one is from Rich Smeeney. Mike White has 2 career 300-yard passing games in 4 starts. Zach Wilson has 1 career 300-yard passing game in 20 starts. There was also a stat
Rich had a better one.
Yeah, there was one that was said, I don't know if this was him or not, but somebody had a tweet that was, since they drafted Zach Wilson, there have been 4 games from a Jets quarterback with 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and Wilson has none of them. It's I think 2 for Mike White, 1 for Joe Flacco, and 1 for Josh Johnson, and 0 for Zach Wilson.
Josh Johnson was all garbage time against the Colts. But yeah, I get it.
Just saying,
so,
the stat holds.
Rich Cimini had a similar one. Mike White is the 5th quarterback in NFL history to record multiple games with 300 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns within his first 4 career starts. Here's the list. He joins Kurt Warner with 3. Okay. So 3 of Warner's first 4 starts had that, 303. Patrick Mahomes has 2. Mark Rippon had 2. And Austin Davis.
Austin Davis?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
2014 Rams, maybe?
Wow.
I mean, it just shows Mike White's either going to be future Hall of Famer Kurt Warner,
or random ass guy you can barely remember,
or career backup Austin Davis, who ran into. I mean, 3 Super Bowl winners there actually: Kurt Warner, Patrick Mahomes, and Mark Rippon.
That's true.
And Austin Davis.
Yeah.
So there's a 75% chance, if you're statistically inclined. I'm pretty sure this is how odds work. This is why my picks are so good.
Yeah.
There's a 75% chance that Mike White's going to win a Super Bowl. Okay. Based off that very specific stat that's only happened 5 times in NFL history.
Okay. It also, by the way, I mean, this just not only does it justify the move to bench Zach Wilson and start Mike White, when you sort of saw the way the Jets players were talking about Mike White after the game, it kind of reinforces just how much work Wilson has to do to get anything back, or to try and get himself back in good standing within that locker room.
Here's the thing, too. We've said this before. The concerning thing last year is when Zach Wilson left, the offense looked completely different with Mike White and with Josh Johnson. 2 weeks ago when we were saying Zach Wilson, the Jets did a good job of scheming up the game for Zach Wilson, that was because it was all not first read. I mean, you're throwing a screen, you're throwing an RPO, right? These are schemed up plays. What Mike White did that was different was he read concepts, right? Again, throwing hot versus the blitz, quick game, they rolled him out left and they created some open throws for him. There were a lot of open throws in this offense and Mike White hit them, right? Zach Wilson hasn't had a game that looked anything like this yet. That's the biggest concern for Wilson and his development. The run game is also pretty solid for the Jets. Zonovan Knight comes in, and he has a good game both as a runner and as a receiver. So
this was also a really weird game where Bears receivers kept mossing people at the catch point. Didn't end up mattering, but like Byron Pringle scored his first touchdown where the ball was thrown to DJ Reed basically in the end zone, and Pringle just went, nope, I'm gonna get it. Moss like over the top of him, grabbed it. Chase Claypool out-physicaled Sauce Gardner deep down the field, which is something nobody has done over the course of this season so far. The classic deep throw that we're like, don't stop throwing that against Sauce because it's not possible to complete it. Well, Chase Claypool just went, yeah, but I'm bigger and stronger than he is, and I'm going to make that one play a game where I justify, the faith that everybody has in me being a great receiver. Okay, it was like the one play in the game that he did that, but he did it. So, yeah, it was just a weird early in the game in particular. It was like, maybe just simply giving it. There was a lot of YOLO passing from quarterbacks yesterday where a lot of guys are just like, I'm just going to put the ball in the air and see if my receivers can come down with it. And Simeon did that early in this game. Bears were coming down with it a bit, and then the limitations of Simeon became clear.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close game early on. Jets were up 14-10 into the second quarter. That was when Garrett Wilson broke away for that 54-yarder. 60% of White's yards came after the catch, in part because Wilson, really nice pass to Wilson, should have been about a 15, 20-yarder. Wilson turns it into 54. Elijah Moore, nice pass over the middle. He turns it into 42. So the Jets offense, man, looked really good overall. So there we go. Jets 31-10. So they're up to 7-4 now. Third place in the AFC East, just ahead of the Patriots.
And in the playoffs.
Miami Dolphins, they're up at 8-3, tied for the lead in the AFC East with the tiebreaker over the Buffalo Bills. Dolphins get up 30-0 over the Houston Texans. As you said, they're they're going to dominate them.
I
right?
said they were going to cover the spread, which was like 48 points on their own, and they were going to until Teron Armstead got hurt, had to leave the game, and then that threatened to get Tua hurt, and they were like, oh, better pull Tua and put Skylar Thompson in there, and then they stopped scoring.
Tua had a couple scares in there. He got sacked 4 times in this game. Remember, we had talked about he has done a great job of taking care of the ball as a thrower, taking care of, and not taken those sacks recently. He got rolled up on a couple times. He looked fragile.
Well, because you know what happens when Teron Armstead goes down. What does that mean?
I don't know. You've got Brandon Shell.
Yeah. Brandon Shell goes back to left tackle.
You have,
and you know what that means?
A career right tackle at left tackle, or a career just bad backup Greg Little.
Yeah. So Brandon Shell goes back to being left tackle, and all of a sudden you're reminded that this guy can't actually play left tackle. So, like, that on its own, not only does it have the capacity to just ruin your offense, but it has the capacity to break your quarterback, who is small and, looks fragile.
Yeah, so, I mean, not much else to add here. The Texans, they fought back. I thought that Kyle Allen would, potentially give them a spark.
You did, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
He didn't.
5 turnover-worthy plays from Kyle.
Yes. Do you know how many?
It's not great.
So Davis Mills had 8 turnover-worthy plays all season.
This season.
All 8 all season. And Kyle Allen came in with 5 in this game.
Well, it's like, if you decided, hey, Davis Mills is doing a reasonable job of this whole game managing thing. He's not putting the ball in harm's way, but he's just not giving us enough. He's just not – we need more aggressive. We need more big plays. You're like, yeah, but that comes at a cost. If you don't have a good quarterback, you can get some more big plays. You can get a little bit more aggression, but there's a chance he's just going to pitch the ball right to the defense a bunch of times. And that's what
that's been Kyle Allen's career. I think we mentioned it on the pregame show. I mean, he's a volatile guy.
Yeah.
Right? And much like Davis Mills, once they were down 30, he started to make, a few nice throws down the field. But
I think it's probably easier to take a guy like Davis Mills, who by nature doesn't put the ball in harm's way very much, and say, hey, Davis, I will give you the break in the meeting room and say, look, this is not on you. Just, be a bit more aggressive. Like, just take some shots, take some risks, right? Free roll, Free. I'm gonna give you. It's free money, house money. It's on me. It's not on you. Just take some risks, right? Just be more aggressive out there than it is to take a Kyle Allen, who's just like plays like with a blindfold on half the time, and say, let's just try and not. Our guys, the guys in the same color jersey as you, if they could catch the ball, that would be great. If you could just avoid throwing it to people that are in a different jersey than you, that would be great.
Man, you'd be a great QB coach.
I just think that feels like an easier process to me, to try and convince the conservative guy to just be a bit more aggressive than it is to take a guy who's playing the game where you put your head in the bat and spin around 25 times and then have to run a straight line or pitch a ball in the
Dizzy bat race?
Yeah, there you go. That thing. That's how Kyle Allen plays the game. It feels easier to get a guy to just be a bit more aggressive than it is to take that guy and make him accurate,
Dominant pass rush from the Dolphins. I mean, that's the thing, man. The Texans just don't have much to be excited about right now.
No.
That's it.
They're
not even feisty anymore.
They're not even feisty.
I mean, they're feisty enough to make it, to get within 15 against Skylar Thompson.
So that this almost got close. Skylar Thompson came in after the Teron Armstead thing, and then the Dolphins went consecutive 3-and-outs. The Texans put up a couple of scores, and then we're driving for a third. If they score again, Miami might have to throw Tua back out there. And it wasn't clear on the broadcast whether they had sort of benched Tua for his own safety, or if they'd benched him because the previous scares had already come close enough that he was actually kind of hurt, and putting him back out there would be like, sort of throwing an already injured guy back into the fire. It was, 15 points, right? Like, how scary was it? But there was a lot of time on the clock, and it's never good to have to put in a starter after you've taken him out of the game because you thought the game was in hand,
Yeah.
And we almost got there from Miami.
That's what happened the last time I rolled my ankle.
Yeah. You have to get put back in the game?
We were up 15 or so. Our backups almost lost it. High school basketball. Backups almost lost it. I had to go back into the game, swatted him in the corner, but I landed on his foot and rolled my ankle. It's out for 4 weeks because our coach had to put the starters back in. So let that be a lesson. Tua, you don't want to have to go back in. You might roll your ankle like I did because that's 100% odds. That'll happen. That's how odds work, as we've established. All right, that's enough of that game. Washington Commanders 19, Atlanta Falcons 13. A little bit of a rain game, a run game.
A lot of rain games yesterday.
Yeah, there was a lot of rain. There was a lot of rain around. We should have mentioned that, too, in the Jets game. A lot of rain in that game.
Rain in the Jets game, rain in the Browns-Bucs game.
A little bit, yeah. There were points where it rained there as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's rain, yeah.
It didn't rain as much as the forecast called for, I guess, though. Rained here in Cincinnati. At times we got some tornado-looking weather for a while. It was windy the last couple of days here. Didn't affect us, though. Worked right through it. All right, 19-13 Commanders. Commanders are up to 7-5. Is Taylor Heineke, I got to look up the stats. This is an important one. He might be the winningest quarterback in PFF history for a guy that grades in the 50s in every single game. He might have the most wins with grades in the 50s.
Well, that's why he's starting.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
Timo, too. I have Twitter, on the side every now and again, and Timo posts some nice Monday morning stats. During Washington's 7-game stretch here, where they're 6-1, best record in the NFL.
Yeah.
27th most efficient passing attack using EPA.
Okay.
So, once again, feels like Washington's winning despite Taylor Heineke.
Yeah. I mean, so a couple of funny stats. Carson Wentz still has 2 more passing touchdowns than Russell Wilson, and Carson Wentz hasn't played since week 6 and has been benched. That's how bad Denver's thing. There's also that running joke of whether Russell Wilson has more bathrooms in his house or touchdowns this season.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are in that, but it's probably still pretty close.
Oh, yeah. We're into week 13 here, and it's very close.
We need at this point, so this game, Washington, both rush attacks, obviously, because Atlanta doesn't pass the ball if they can possibly avoid it. So they had success on the ground, 167 rushing yards for Atlanta. Cordell Patterson made a bunch of plays, looked good. But Brian Robinson Jr., the rookie out of Alabama, had a big game, had 100 rushing yards, had
nice receiving touchdown in
right,
there.
where he just trucked the dude.
Yeah.
He had a great game. Like, it was a proper – this was the guy that sort of won the job in preseason before he got shot a couple of times and had to be parked while he recovered. But this was the guy that looked like he was going to show up in preseason and be one of the Rookie of the Year candidates, and then showed up in the locker room with a picture that I was 100% sure was photoshopped every time I saw it, which is just like, that the thing you see every now and again where they Photoshop the helmet of a guy much bigger, like a big head.
Yeah.
Well, he had one of those, except it was a baseball cap. It looked like the thing from Spaceballs. But apparently his buddy or something has a company that just makes giant hats.
Robinson, too. I think he's in on it.
We should be if he isn't.
Big hat company.
I feel like we need one of those. I was kind of going back and forth between just finding it hilarious and going, I'd sit there with one of those.
I'm going to look it up.
Show.
I want to look up the big hat company. You just going to get like a sports hat?
The bathrooms are in a commanding lead still, according to Eli. 12 bathrooms, 8 touchdowns.
12-8?
Yeah. Look, here's the
big hat.
I mean, isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it looks fake.
It doesn't. Every time I see that, it's like, why did somebody Photoshop a giant hat on him?
Look at him, backwards cap guy. So do most guys? Are these made to wear backwards? Or
I saw it the other way around as well. There's a picture somewhere with them. The hat's on forwards. So it's versatile. That's the beauty of the big hats.
Let's can we get Chris to fork over some money for some big hats over here? I want to wear these on a podcast.
How much do you think they cost?
I don't know. It's a lot more material than the average cap. It's not your Burt Reynolds on Celebrity. There it is. That's your regular.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I need one of those.
Do you go straight brim with the cap? Is that, or do you? What do you do with the brim?
I need where's the purchase page? This was the missing part in his pitch. It was like, buddy of mine makes big hats. So if you need big hats, I need the link. Give me the URL to buy the big hat.
Robinson rushes for 100, receiving touchdown, perfect opportunity to push the big hats.
We did. He pushed them, but he missed. That's the thing. The sales pitch, right? You missed the call to action.
Yes.
That's what he did. He gave us the pitch. He got everybody hooked. Everybody wants a big hat now. They look amazing. but he didn't give us the where's the call to action?
Luckily,
Where do
he'll
we
play
go?
football again next week and have an opportunity to. I mean, it's going to catch on, the big hat. For some people, it might be called a normal hat. Me, Bruce Bochy, you don't know him.
No.
Size 8 hat, World Series
Size
manager.
8, that is large.
Size 8.
But I've discovered since being bald that
You could use a hat.
Well, I use a lot of hats now, but the sizing of your head is incredibly reliant on how much hair you have at the time. Like my head size has dropped in hat size significantly since no longer possessing any hair. Yours, like that springy thing that you have on your head, like that's a couple of hat sizes right there.
For sure.
You shave that off, you go back to having a normal sized head.
After my haircut today, I'm going to lose half a size of my head, my hat. Anyway, in this game, it ended. It's 19-13. The Falcons are driving with an opportunity for the game-winning touchdown. Mariota hits Zacchaeus for a 44-yarder. They get into scoring range, and then it's a batted pass by Daron Payne, tipped up in the end zone.
Yep.
Marcus Mariota, interception. That ends it, essentially, and Washington once again survives.
Well, no, it didn't
game.
end it. So
Didn't completely end it.
It should have ended it. Well, I mean, it looked like it. You thought it would have ended it, but then the defense for Atlanta holds. They're going to make Washington punt the ball away, get one last chance, with a little bit of time on the clock.
44 seconds left. There's a punt, yes.
Right. So, it's doable. As we talked about, 13 seconds is enough time to get yourself in a field goal range. And then they run into the punter.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Few games. So 2 games that ended on 2-point conversion decisions, and a couple games that last-ditch efforts ended on penalties. Titans game and then this game as well. Falcons fall to 5-7, commanding second place in the NFC South. And Commanders up to 7-5, which doesn't do much in the NFC East. Now they're moving.
And into the playoffs. It gets you that
they're
final
into the
wild card
playoff
spot
picture.
right now.
NFC East is now
The entire NFC
loaded.
East is in the playoffs currently.
Washington keeps playing well. And look, it was an interesting game. Like Atlanta, they won up front. I mean, they ran the ball the way they wanted to and everything, but just not a lot of points on the board in this game with both rushing attacks working pretty well.
I mean, that's the fascinating thing about the current lay of the land in the playoffs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as things currently stand, will be hosting one of those NFC East teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also don't. I mean, if they're hosting the Commanders or the Giants, I think they're probably a better team.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like they would be favored against, I think, either of those, the Giants or Washington. I think they would be favored in a playoff game. So even if they, bumble their way through the rest of the season, they end up winning the division with a losing record, and Washington and then the Giants continue, their run of sort of the record stays the same proportionally. You know what I mean? So it's like a 10 or 11 win team going up against an 8-9 Tampa Bay side. I think the Bucs would still be favored and could, win a playoff game.
All right, let's go to the 4 o'clock games here. Los Angeles Chargers 25, Arizona Cardinals 24. Chargers, they did it. They went for 2 for the win, and they get it. It was did I get the score wrong here? No, they're missing it in this. It's 25-24. Chargers fall down 10-0 because that's what they always do in the first half. But just a really good back and forth game. I mean, it felt like a lot of the stars were playing like stars early on. You have Kyler Murray hitting DeAndre Hopkins. He's weaving through the defense for a 33-yarder. Herbert's making some big throws. Murray scrambles in for a touchdown. The player with a really nice interception, even though it was on 4th down against DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of the stars making some plays in this game. Back and forth battle, but the Chargers pull it off to move to 6-5. Cardinals fall to 4-8.
This was the first time that we got to see the Arizona offense with both Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup.
Yeah.
Now, okay, it's not 100% what we thought it would be preseason because Zach Ertz is hurt, so it's not everybody. But remember, DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for the first 6 games, and Marquise Brown got hurt, and they've never been in the lineup at the same time. This was the first glimpse of that. Marquise Brown was back. Kyler Murray was back from his hamstring strain, and it did some damage early on, but it's still like, whatever's broken with this Arizona team is still broken, even with those guys both there.
Yeah, Kyler still ends up with 6.6 yards per attempt. I mean, Herbert Herbert ended up at 5.8 yards per attempt too. I mean, he just has they just have a knack for no matter how good it feels. I mean, it felt like DeAndre Carter's running through the defense a ton yesterday for big plays, and he did have some big plays in there, but you still don't have the most efficient down for down passing offense with Herbert. In the Chargers, they didn't run the ball much at all.
Austin Eckler had 15 targets.
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of it too. Yards per attempt is just an interesting number because if you are truly replacing the run with the pass in certain games, you're going to have a lower yards per attempt number unless you get the yak, right? Unless you have your running backs just really create. Eckler had 11 catches for 60 yards. There's your 5.5 yards per catch right there. And as always, the Chargers' run defense, they're giving it up to James Conner, but it didn't really matter for the Cardinals.
No, it didn't. Yeah, this game, it felt like Arizona was – they got out to an early lead. They put up a couple of scores. It was like, oh, maybe they can get things going with this group back. And then the Chargers started to peg them back, and it became this kind of game of, well, the Chargers should win, but they're the Chargers and have a tendency to, charger away these types of games. And then Arizona, it was almost like, does anybody actually want to win this game by the end of it?
There's a Zaven Collins. There was a tip pass, near interception. Another one of those. Did you end up hearing the explanation on that? Zaven Collins? Near interception, ball hits the ground. Does he have his hands under it? I mean, the review took forever. I don't have the volume. I only have the volume on so many games at a time,
I am done with officiating catches / no. It was like back to the Des Bryant, Calvin Johnson era of catches at the moment.
It's not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's just inconsistent.
Right, which is why it's pretty bad.
So, man, Chargers just always play these ridiculous games, huh?
Yeah.
Close games.
But, I mean, a big result for them. Like coming into this game, it's like this is the type of game you really need to win if you're the Chargers and you want to have any kind of part of postseason football. It was a grind, and it didn't always look like it was going to happen, but they got it.
So the 2-point conversion works, right? I mean, the narrative's interesting because, again, I don't always listen to the analysis, but a lot of me hearing what other analysts say just comes from having Twitter up, and it's like, oh, so-and-so said that Brandon Staley's dumb and should get fired, right? Like that's just that those things come up when these things fail. Is anyone praising Brandon Staley today? Is anyone praising Doug Peterson today for these decisions that worked, that literally won them games? They won the game. They won the game because Brandon Staley said, I'm doing it. Now, they could have won the game in overtime still. We know that was possible. But they definitively won the game directly correlated to those 2-point decisions, right? Doug Peterson and the Jaguars, Brandon Staley and the Chargers. The Chargers moved to 6-5. They're in the hunt like anyone else in the AFC. And if they make the playoffs and make a little run, you could point back to this game for whatever it's worth against an Arizona Cardinals team. Yeah, they should probably beat them the way these teams are constructed right now. But that decision ends up being crucial. You're in the situation, you're play to win, and they executed, and the Chargers win 25-24.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that Brandon Staley did make that decision to go for it because, remember, last year they were going for 4th downs everywhere. Whether it was advised or not by the data, they were just going for all these 4th downs. And he took a ton of crap for it. And, I mean, this was part of the sort of analytics branding problem, right? Is that analytics gets blamed for all those Brandon Staley go-for-it decisions that were bad. Like even the ones where the analytics would say, no, don't go for it. That's insane. What are you talking about? And he goes for it. They don't get it because the execution a lot of those plays was bad as well. And it's like, well, the numbers are dumb. You nerds don't understand football. Why are you possibly saying to go for it? Well, they didn't. Like he went for a bunch of those. So actually, when you look at what he was doing last year, you can make a pretty good case that it wasn't analytically shrewd. It was just aggressive, like just hyper-aggressive for whatever reason, but a reason that is not explained by the numbers said. And then this year, it had gone in the opposite direction, where they're actually going for it a lot less than the numbers would say you do. And the Chargers passed up a lot of potential win percentage points by not going for it in situations where the analytics has said to go for it. But this was a situation where it does say go. It says go for it, get the 2, win the game there, done. And he went back to type, I guess, and went for it in the sort of defaults, I guess, to an aggressive standpoint when one play determines the game, which I think is encouraging at least.
So there we go. Chargers win 25-24. They move to 6-5, and boy, the AFC is going to be really competitive. NFC is going to be top heavy, feels top heavy, but the AFC is going to be really competitive down the stretch here when it comes to playoff positioning and everything. So big win there. Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to this crazy game. Raiders 40, Seahawks 34. I mean, right from the get-go, this game was just crazy, right? I mean, there was a point in this game, too, much like Rodgers on Sunday Night Football. Derek Carr's got like 10 pass attempts, 2 are touchdowns, 2 are interceptions. He gets picked off. Was it his first pass by Quandre Diggs? Like right away, Quandre Diggs has 2 interceptions in the first quarter. But for the second straight week, the Raiders win in walk-off fashion in overtime. A walk-off win. Half of their wins in the Josh McDaniels era are walk-off overtime wins, as Josh Jacobs just runs 86 yards for a touchdown in overtime. So Raiders win 40-34. They move to 4-7. Seahawks fall to 6-5.
303 offensive yards for Josh Jacobs, which is more than teams had yesterday, more than teams had this week.
I might be invested in a little Josh Jacobs. I'm keeping an eye on that every single week. They used him a lot in the pass game. They're using him on slants. They're using him underneath, and he had 74. He tied Devontae Adams with the receiving yard lead for the Raiders yesterday with 74.
I think I've always expected that to be a huge part of his game, and it really hasn't been in the NFL. Like his college tape at Alabama, one of the things that I loved about it was he looked like a wide receiver on certain plays.
That's right. You used to have that take, yeah.
They were able to split him out wide, and he looked like a wide receiver. He had great hands. He caught the ball with his hands, out away from the frame of his body. He was able to run routes like a wide receiver. And then he got to the NFL, and that was just never a part of his game. He barely featured in the pass game. When he did, it was all just like basic dump-off running back stuff. Nobody has ever tapped into that. But yesterday, he had one spectacular one-handed catch on a pass that wasn't the most accurate thing in the world. Like, we got to see a bit more of what he can do as a receiver. And I'm surprised that hasn't been tapped into as much as I think it could be if anybody ever leaned into it.
Yeah, I think Jacobs, this happens for running backs sometimes, right, where they just look different. That was Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry wasn't always Derrick Henry. There was a point in his career where he just looked more physical, looked faster, played faster. I feel like that's Jacobs this year. I know it's not always translating to wins for the Raiders, but in this game, his first touchdown run was spectacular as well, running through the defense. He looks faster, more decisive, more powerful, and he does look, you're right, like he's always had the receiving skills, and it either hasn't been tapped into or just hasn't always been there. He looked really smooth as a receiver in this one as well.
He's also got his rushing production, his overall production has never necessarily been amazing, but he has more broken tackles on a per carry basis than pretty much anybody in the NFL. Not just this year, but like every year of his career. I mean, he's put up some insane broken tackle numbers that haven't always translated to incredible overall numbers. But this year, like, he's a couple of weeks away from setting a career high in rushing yards, just total. He's by far the highest yards after contact per carry of a figure of his career. He's about to set a career high in broken tackles. Like, he's having an incredible season behind an offensive line that isn't good.
Yeah, I mean, Jacobs going to be a huge story here for the Raiders.
Contract year for him, right?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't pay him at all.
Well, no, but we wouldn't pay running backs.
Yeah,
but for him, I mean, no better time to have the season of your life.
Yeah, he's looking fantastic right now. The Raiders also had they had a flea flicker where Mac Hollins was wide open on a crossing route for an easy touchdown. On the other side, you had I think Derek Carr played a bit of a cleaner game than Geno Smith. Geno had one interception, which was a weird one, a tough crossing route. Tried to throw 2 interceptions in the end zone, got away with those. But once again, you've got a passing attack in Seattle where they could play in a shootout, right? They didn't have much of a running game. Kenneth Walker couldn't get much done on the ground. He did find the end zone twice, but they were creating big plays with Tyler Lockett. Beautiful 35-yard touchdown from Geno to Tyler Lockett. they're able to create some big plays in the pass game still with Geno Smith. This wasn't all on Geno and the offense. I think my concerns with Seattle's defense, they showed signs of life for like 3 weeks. But I think I said on the pregame show who it was against. It was against Arizona. It was against some of these other teams that probably couldn't do much offensively, and they didn't look good against the Bucs, and they looked pretty bad here against the Raiders.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that was always the sort of risk of relying on these young guys that were unproven, were surprising. Yeah, you can surprise for a while, but that might come back down to haunt. It was also like they started double teaming Devontae Adams almost out of the game to the detriment of covering other people, like the Mac Hollins thing. It's like Devontae Adams was drawing such a crowd that people were just forgetting about other receivers on the Raiders. And if you can...
That's what this is supposed to look like, right? That's what it should be.
For the Raiders, it's like that's exactly the plan. Like if Devontae Adams is going to get taken out of the game by this many bodies, there's somebody open, so find him. And generally Carr was.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what it should have looked like for the Raiders. Now, look, I don't think we can underestimate how important a really good tight end is for an offense when you have one of the best ones. We see what Travis Kelce does for the Chiefs, what Gronk has done, what George Kittle does. Darren Waller is up in that tier. Mark Andrews, right? I mean, Darren Waller's in that tier, and the Raiders have not had him. This is why I'm not ready to give up. I don't think Josh McDaniels has been this incredible disaster that maybe we were seeing in Denver. There have been far more signs of life in Vegas than there have been in Denver. So I don't know if this ends up as a turning point these last couple of weeks for the Raiders. On the other hand, it's like, man, they're playing with fire. They're almost 2-9 going to overtime these last couple of weeks. But
not the highest bar in the world either.
I get it. I'm just saying the Raiders have a really good group of players for Tom Brady next year.
True.
Well,
get Dana White on that. Remember, he almost secured it.
Yeah,
deal the last time. Get him in there working on it again.
Brady and Rodgers are both just going to come back, aren't
they? Brady doesn't have a huge reason to walk away anymore. And Rodgers, I think, is incentivized not to.
We'll talk about him soon.
The rookie tackles for the Seahawks, who have been a big part of this success this season, both had pretty rough days. Now, Abraham Lucas going up against Max Crosby, that's the toughest test I think he's faced in his rookie season. He's going to end up with a pretty rough pass protection grade gave up 6 pressures. Charles Cross on the other side gave up 7 pressures, and he didn't have, I think, as tough an assignment this week. So that was a big, the Raiders actually haven't had a great pass rush at all this season. It's generally been Max Crosby and not even and friends, just and nobody. But this week they actually got home with quite a lot of pressure and caused a lot of those problems. Like Chandler Jones has been fairly anonymous this season, but had a bunch of pressure against Charles Cross.
Yeah, that's an underrated. I mean, I was looking at his numbers the other day. I mean, this is the worst year Chandler Jones has ever had. And,
he's been. You could see the decline in his performance for the last couple of years. It's generally been he's skewed towards from being a very good all-round player to now I only rush the passer and don't defend the run at all. I think now you're just sort of seeing the culmination of now the pass rush goes as well.
On the other side, Seattle has struggled rushing the passer for the majority of the season, and that showed up again in this one. That's right. I can't trust.
Except that one play where Uchenna Nwosu smoked Derek Carr. Drilled.
And Nwosu's been the one bright spot on that team. But again, it's
he didn't have a great game, but he just
right.
Annihilated Carr in that one play.
A handful of plays. So Seahawks fall to 6-5. I think they got to clean things up defensively. Still believe in Geno Smith and their offense and everything, but not sure what to do with the defense in Seattle. All right, let's go. Kansas City Chiefs 26, Rams 10. I think these next couple should be quick. I mean, Bryce Perkins played his heart out, man. Had some fun plays, had some really good plays where he just, scrambled out and found some open receivers. But the whole time you're just like, it feels like this David and Goliath type of matchup, right? I mean, the Chiefs are the better team. You've got Patrick Mahomes. They've got this offense moving pretty well. And even if the Rams make some key defensive stops, which eventually they did. Mahomes throws an interception in the end zone, and the Rams are down 2 scores, but it's like they just don't have enough firepower to do anything with it.
I mean, they lost by 16 points. The Chiefs covered the giant spread heading into this game, and it still felt like quite a good game from the Rams relative to expectations.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the gulf between these two teams right now. The injuries for the Rams is absurd. Like, your guy, Ty Nseki, didn't play in the game. So A.J. Akuri was a starting left tackle for them, which is their 11th or 12th starting combination on the offensive line this season.
I thought you were going to say 11th or 12th string left tackle.
No, but
which,
it might
by
as
the way,
well
is
be.
Not far off.
Yeah. Like, the offensive line is just fallen to rack and ruin. Like, honestly, if that guy that Minnesota hired away to lead their sports science department, if he genuinely was the reason that they were charmed relative to the rest of the league in injuries the last couple of years and now a disaster, they need to give him like 3% of the Rams to come back. Like, this is a train wreck.
Yeah,
Allen Robinson, broken foot. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. In addition to Cooper Kupp being down, in addition to the offensive line, in addition to Matthew Stafford's concussion, like, there's nobody left.
Sean McVay's getting headbutt.
Our
pets' heads are falling off.
McVay has a chin.
Yeah.
That hit looks like every highlight reel boxing or MMA knockout punch you've ever seen, where the guy just, like, perfect on the button, the jaw, like, swings out, the face distends and starts wobbling. And he just, like, spun around and it was like, I'm good. Next. That hit looks like it should have KO'd a regular human. And McVay just shook it off.
I thought you were going to make fun of me, but you may have been impressed with my stumble into my minivan today.
I mean, if you went face first into it and you just got up and shook it off.
I was cheek. I would think it was shoulder and cheek right up against the door. I mean, if you saw it in slow motion, you might have a new respect for me. Well, maybe I walked it off.
Maybe if you'd had it filmed and you had a slow-mo replay of it, I'd be impressed.
Oh, man, I guess I don't have any security cams in that spot. Imagine if I had that. It was a thud, man. It was a thud. I think I woke up the neighborhood.
Yeah. I asked you this, though, yesterday. Does this fall into the purview? For anyone that didn't see it, McVay was, like, walking down the sideline, one of his own players to get on the field, just, like, ran into him. And
he just, like, turned his helmet.
Well, he kind of saw it coming and tried to get out of the way, tried to get thin, tried to get narrow through the gap. Only all he ended up doing was sort of turning his shoulder into McVay's chin and clocking him as he went by.
Wasn't it?
No, it was shoulder to cheek was what clocked him. Does that fall under the purview of a get-back coach?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he should have been on top of that.
It's keeping you back.
That's like the Happy Gilmore thing,
I thought you were saying the players being the get-back coach.
No.
I'll smack you in the chin.
Should Sean McVay's get-back coach have seen that coming and prevented disaster?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But didn't he lose he lost his get-back coach a couple years ago.
Did he? He never replaced him?
There was an incident or something, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm just saying, I was hugely impressed by Sean McVay's chin on that shot, which is probably the most impressive thing about the Rams in this game.
Yeah. I mean, they were outmanned. I mean, look, the defense played well. I thought that they got some pressure on Mahomes. Mahomes, once again, I mean, so we made the point on Russ earlier about how he made plays. He used to make plays outside the pocket and all that stuff, and he's still trying to do that, right? Like, Russ is still trying to navigate the pocket and get out. Mahomes was, once again, he didn't get sacked on 42 dropbacks, more than 42 dropbacks. Again, a magician, just knowing if you don't have lane discipline, I'm getting out of here.
So there was a piece of information that somebody tweeted. I think it was like whatever his sort of strength and conditioning or speed and agility coach, a guy he works with personally.
Mahomes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to be like, hey, this is what we work on type of stuff.
He tweeted out some sort of numbers, like data points about Patrick Mahomes. And it seemed to suggest that Mahomes runs faster essentially in a circle than he does in a straight line. It was like 103% of his max speed when he runs in a circle than he does when he's just running in a straight line, right? So you're like, okay.
Checks out when he looks like he's running on ice.
Your initial reaction is, well, clearly that doesn't actually make any sense, and there's some sort of flaw in the data, or the test is imbalanced somehow. But I'm actually starting to believe that it's true. I don't know that I've ever seen a human run quicker in a sort of broad arc than Mahomes does, which, by the way, it seems like he's always running in that broad arc. Like, he's never running in a straight line point to point. He's always running in a large circle around something, and it seems to be always through defenders somehow. This large parabola of direction seems to somehow pass in between perfectly every defender for like 30 yards. I don't quite understand how that happens all the time, but it's remarkable to watch. And between that and Mahomes just like throwing the ball to Kelsey. Like, the Chiefs must pick up more improbable down and distance situations than anybody else in the league. Like, holding penalty, 1st and 20. Okay, first down. What? That's supposed to, like everyone else, that's like a drive killer.
It's almost like more room to work.
Right, or you get to like 3rd and 3. It becomes a grind to pick that up. The Chiefs are just like, no, we'll just pick up the first down on 1st and 20. It's fine.
I mean, I think the broadcast actually put the stat up there too. Mahomes isn't doing this with 20-plus yard touchdown throws or anything like that. It looks different than, say, his rookie year. And even just general big-time throws are down. But in this one, he had a few, right? He had some really nice ones. One of them falls incomplete to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Mahomes played really well. Again, outside of that, he just had the one mishap, the interception in the end zone. So that was like the one thing in a normal game. Matthew Stafford's there. The offensive line isn't on their 11th string left tackle and all that. Like, those would come back and be like, hey, the Rams have signs of life, but it just never felt like they had an opportunity in this game. Chiefs were just too good. Mahomes hitting cover 2 shots and that whole point of his like running in a circle, his spatial awareness and all that stuff too.
Travis Kelce
really good.
Has now on back-to-back weeks eviscerated the player and then Jalen Ramsey. The sort of 2 players, if you're looking league-wide, who would say have the best chance of matching up one-on-one with Travis Kelce.
Whooped Ramsey on that.
I mean, Ramsey was lost for the entire play. Like, it was one of those things where there's like 3 moves in it, and Ramsey is at least 1 step behind on every single move, getting further and further behind with the next move, just completely lost in it. After having doing the same thing kind of to the player a week ago, like that, how does he look this good this late into his career? Like, he's, 9 months younger than Gronk, who's been geriatric and broken down for the last 5 years.
Well, I think part of it is because Kelce, they were basically playing different positions. I mean, Gronk was in line. They're running power. They're running gap schemes behind Gronk, right? They run trap plays behind Gronk where he's trapping nose tackles and stuff. Kelce's basically a glorified wide receiver, right? He lines up in line, but not to, get dirty in the run game. So it's a position where he should age more like a wide receiver. Now, granted, receivers also hit a wall. Like, there should be a point in Kelce's career where he loses that step, where he loses that quickness, and much like a receiver, and he's not as effective. But he's not there yet. I mean, he had shown signs maybe he was a couple of years ago, but yeah, Kelce's he looks as good as ever, quick and fast, and same thing like Mahomes, just faster than the guy that he's running away from.
Kelce and Russell Wilson are the same age.
Yeah.
Again, one guy looks broken down physically.
I mean, I should say I always complimented Russ for not taking big hits. That is one of the big, because as much as he ran around, he didn't get popped a ton. He did a good job sliding, did a good job getting out of bounds. He got sacked a bunch, Russ, but he has done a good job of avoiding the big hits. But clearly that hasn't mattered either.
It's just remarkable that Kelce looks this good and this unstoppable and this athletic at a point of his career where he should be declining physically.
Yeah. All right, let's get to this 49ers Saints game. That's the one.
Okay.
Quickly. 49ers 13-0.
Yeah. First time the Saints have been shut out since 2001.
What were you doing in 2001?
I was in college at some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were sophomores?
I mean, sure.
Sophomores in college?
Right, we don't have. It's not like, it's just second year.
Second year?
Yeah.
Sophomore?
If you like.
Yeah. 01, huh?
Yeah.
That was a long time. It's a good job not getting shut out.
It was early Aaron Brooks.
Oh, boy.
Not just like pre-Drew Brees, but early Aaron Brooks.
Who's that against? Let me try to relive that game.
Oh, God.
Because it was better than this one. The Saints had many opportunities. I think Dr. Eager tweeted, if you were a Saints better, +9, having a heart attack here because they almost put it in, 15 times, including Alvin Kamara fumbling right at the goal line.
Saints better, or just somebody that picked the 49ers to cover the spread in our picks.
You took the Niners?
Yeah.
I didn't?
No.
So I was the Saints better. Of course I lost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either one of us was, living it with the last few plays.
Let's go check out the 2001 Saints.
Trevor Penning debut. Not on the offensive line where they they could use him, I guess, but they were throwing him in there as the sort of the sixth offensive line, the jumbo tight end. really jumbo.
Oh, the last loss was it was 38-0 against the Niners.
Yeah.
In 0-1.
There you go.
Man, that 0-1 Saints team finished rough.
Yeah.
Yikes.
38-0.
38-0. Well, they lost 48-21, 40-10, and then 38-0 to end the 0-1 season. Yeah, Aaron Brooks had 4 picks. Jeff Blake threw a pass in that game.
Yeah, play.
Ricky Williams somehow didn't save the Saints. He only had 33 yards.
Ricky Williams was on the Saints? Oh, Ricky Williams. Sorry,
Ricky
I was thinking of
Williams.
Ricky
Yeah,
Waters. I was like, what the hell?
Not Ricky Waters.
No.
Jeff Garcia with 4 touchdowns on 21 attempts in that game. And T.O. goes 2 catches for $116 and 2 scores. Pretty good. All right, anyway, that's enough.
It was a nice little aside.
It was better than this game.
Sure.
Saints defense, once again, I mean, they've got that ability of they gave up 13 points, right? I mean, they have that ability to keep it close. The whole the Saints, everything just kind of goes wrong for them offensively. They have a chance to. They have all these opportunities in the red zone. You have Kamara fumbling at the goal. This is where it's like it wasn't as bad as it seems, as 0 points seems. How do you get to 0 points, right? You have a fumble right at the goal line. You have 4 shots to put into the end zone. Nick Bosa, not Joey. Nick Bosa, incredible jump off the snap on 4th and 4. Sacks Dalton before he even has a chance. It was as much, I think, the Niners defense, bad luck, and just, other Saints players. All the Saints players pretty much letting them down.
Yeah.
There's a drop in the end zone by Taysom Hill. So it's one of those performances when Dalton makes a good throw, it gets dropped. You got fumbles.
They also got, they got a little bit unlucky as well on the other side of the ball.
Jimmy G's touchdown.
Yeah. Almost broken up in the end zone by Tyrann Mathieu. Ends up dropping to Jennings anyway. And then you had that, he'd avoided it for a long time, but you had the classic Jimmy G, like, what the hell was that pass? Was it just an interception or a pick six? And then he got bailed out by a flag that was nowhere near, that was not relevant to the play, basically. So, the 49ers kind of dodged a couple of bullets there that would have made this a lot closer than the 13-0.
Yeah, 3rd and 3. The interception would have brought the Saints right to the 9, but it gets bailed out. Yeah,
and that Jimmy G had avoided that throw generally this season. He's been prone to those throughout his career, which is another part of the reason that the Trey Lance thing happened in the first place. On the number 1, the guy's always injured, so we should probably have another plan. Number 2, every now and again he goes and brain farts and throws the ball straight to the defense for no reason. Generally this season, he actually hasn't, but that was one of them.
Brandon Ayuk, once again, the leading receiver for the 49ers, then Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel. You could see Samuel, playing on a bad ankle. He looked good when he was running the ball, had a big gain, negated in there as well. He looked good when he had the ball in his hands, but you could see him hobbling in between plays. After last week, where it felt like all of their playmakers in San Francisco, all of them working together and all that stuff, only 13 points in this game, despite having all of them, right? McCaffrey, Kittle, Samuel, even Hurt. Ayuk looks like the most consistent of all their playmakers this year, which if you said that at the beginning of the season, and we heard that in training camp, right? Ayuk looks great in training camp. It's like, man, these guys could be scary good. It doesn't matter. They win the game. Their defense has been fantastic. I think the Saints, there's just no rhythm to the Saints offense either, man. It's just a whole bunch of plays, and every now and again Taysom Hill comes in and does some stuff, and there's just no rhythm in life there. And they're going to play the Bucs on Monday Night Football next week, and it's going to be 6-3 or something, isn't it?
There's another, Andy Dalton played okay.
I mean, that's the story of the season, right? Everybody's like, why is Andy Dalton grading well? Nobody who watches the NFL thinks Andy Dalton's playing well, because the Saints aren't good, and they have games like this. They've had some high-scoring games, but they've had some duds as well. But I just think it's everything around the Saints, the run blocking, the pass blocking, everything's just bad. And then when it is good, you fumble at the goal line, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't a talent thing. It's just hey, when you happen to you fumbled. Kamara doesn't fumble all the time. So, yeah. Anything else on this one? Niners moved to 7-4.
They do. Also, they're top of the division now, right? They jumped the Seahawks.
Leading the NFC West. commanding 1-game lead over the Seahawks.
Commanding 1 game.
In the tiebreaker. They'll play again soon.
I mean, they're the 3 seed right now.
Yep. Yeah, Niners are looking good. I mean, I think their scoring output should be better. But it was last week. It wasn't so much this week. Saints defense played tough. Let's go to the Sunday night game. This thing was crazy. Philadelphia 40, Packers 33. It was a back-and-forth battle. The Eagles end up running for 363 yards after Jalen Hurts takes a knee. So it was really 364. Let's not skimp here.
Let's give him the extra yard.
Jalen Hurts had over 100 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah. Which is a record. First time that's ever happened for a quarterback. Have 100
it felt
rushing
like
yards
we were
in a quarter.
watching a lot of history last night in this game, right? Didn't feel like
It felt like such a weird game.
Run defense, I don't like, you put QB scrambles in there with run defense and it skews the numbers. A lot of Hurts rushing yards came on scrambles, but you have all those.
A lot of them didn't, though.
No, I know. A lot of them were designed. Either way, all I'm saying is it's not like a run defense game plan to contain Jalen Hurts as a pass rusher. But the Packers were not good at that, containing him. And the Packers were not good at, defending the run, where Miles Sanders had 21 carries for 143. And even at the end, when the Packers had a chance, the Eagles just ran for a first down.
Yeah.
And just kept running.
I mean, everybody had success running the ball. This is we've talked before about how, broadly speaking, run defense is a conscious decision. Do you want to stop the run or do you not want to stop the run? How badly do you want to stop the run effectively? And, okay, there are times where you're willing to sacrifice some run defense for the overall health of your defense and your success. This was one of those games, though, where right from the beginning, it was clear that this was going to be a major problem to the detriment of your success and your ability to win this game. And for them to not fix that over the course of the game, I think is it's a very big indictment of the coaching staff, because the longer this game went on, the less rushing success Philadelphia should have had based off simply changing the answer to that question. How much do you want to stop the run? Not that much. Ooh, okay, more now. A lot now. Now we really want to stop the run. And despite that curve changing over the course of this game, their success stopping it didn't change at all. They continued to give up big plays on the ground at will. That's a pretty bad indictment, I think, of the coaching setup, that didn't shift over the course of this game.
Oh, man. Packers are going to end up, I don't know where the grades are going to be, but they have a run defense grade in the 20s. It felt like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the weird thing is this was a close game for most of it.
It was a close game. A.J. Brown fumbles, Quay Walker with the big return. That helped keep the Packers in it. In the Packers, their start was crazy too, right? You have Aaron Rodgers has 2 interceptions in there, and 2 touchdowns, right? 2 big time throws, couple scores. So you've got, Chris was saying, he's like, this looks like Aaron Rodgers. It did, like scrambling out. He's hitting Aaron Jones in the end zone. That looked like Aaron Rodgers, but he's still making a couple of those bad decisions for picks, and that was before he got hurt, right? He has the oblique injury, leaves the field. He's trying to play through the pain. He's grimacing after every single throw.
In addition to his thumb injury.
Which
is miraculous that he's playing through from the desk of Aaron Rodgers.
Per Aaron Rodgers via Ian Rappaport yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you how much pain Aaron Rodgers has been playing through.
Was miraculous? What was the word he actually used?
I think, sorry, I'm fixing my seat here. The Russ brand, I think, is ready for a statement. What if Rap Sheet accidentally tweets "Let's Ride" at the end of something? So the season's going to end and we're going to get Russell Wilson was really playing through multiple injuries this year. Quad, hamstring, bicep, triceps, wrist, finger.
The actual wording of this.
Mallet finger.
This was a Rap Sheet
Let's
tweet
ride.
From 7 a.m. yesterday. Hashtag.
Hold on. I'm constructing this Russell Wilson tweet at the end of the year.
Okay.
Russell Wilson played through several injuries this year. He didn't get the results that he wanted. However, his teammates really appreciated his toughness, right? And then Russ can't send this tweet to the insider without saying "Let's ride." It's a twitch.
Right.
And then Rap Sheet's going to accidentally copy and paste the "Let's ride" part.
Hashtag Let's Ride.
Hashtag Let's Ride, right?
Okay.
Russ also adds "Let's ride." Oh, by the way, that's not from Russ. Okay, go ahead.
So 7 a.m. yesterday from Ian Rappaport. Hashtag Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers' thumb injury is actually more serious than previously known. Sources describe it as an avulsion fracture. Incredible he's playing through it. My story.
Incredible
He's playing through it. I mean, this felt like a tweet that was from the desk of Aaron Rodgers, you know? I'm taking a lot of crap these days. I'm not happy with it, you know?
Let's get my brand back on track.
Right, let's just make sure people understand what it is I'm battling through right now. It's a miracle that I'm out here giving it everything I got every week.
Yeah.
And the only way I can put that out, I can't tweet it, you know? That would look silly.
No. I mean, he kind of does on McAfee's show anyway.
I got to send it to somebody, you know, who can put it out for me.
Yeah.
You know what this game felt like to me? Are you familiar with the 10-point must scoring system in MMA or boxing?
No.
In the fight game, Steve, the fight game. See, one of the problems with scoring in the fight game is a system called the 10-point must scoring system, where somebody's got to get 10 points in the round.
Oh, the 10-9s. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's always 10-9, yeah.
But the problem with that is those don't necessarily equal out, right?
Sure.
So if you and I are having a fight and you beat the living snot out of me for the first round, you get 10 points, I get 9 or 8. And then the next round, I just pick you apart with a couple of jabs. That's it.
You win the round.
I win the round, 10-9. Now we're even. The fight is even, and yet I'm here with like 2 black eyes, like arm hanging off. Like it's not, the fight hasn't been even, but the scoring is.
Right.
That's what this game felt like. Like Philadelphia was beating the shit out of the Green Bay Packers in the entire game, and yet somehow the Packers kept like throwing a jab that would connect and getting some points on the board. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's like, this is a one-score game. How?
Yeah,
because of the 10-point must scoring system.
That was it. Plus Jordan Love keeping it close once he came in.
Well, that's so at the end of all this.
Really quick, hold on. Sorry. I didn't mean to sound harsh there, but just 1 second here. Aaron Jones has a negated sweep touchdown with one of the best blocks you'll see, Elkin Jenkins. The O-line people on Twitter were very upset. Very, very upset.
It's not like them.
This was a holding pen. It was called a hold. I agree with hashtag O-line Twitter on this one. It was an incredible block. Make sure we give it the big-time block, Ben. Make sure it's a +1. Elkin Jenkins, it was not a hold. Absolutely dominates his man and gets negated. Didn't matter. Rodgers did bounce back and hit Aaron Jones. We gave it a +1.5. There we go. Look at that. +1.5. So we do get a lot of questions. Are you going to call that a hold? Do you go with the refs? Whatever. No, we said the refs are wrong. It was a great block. It was one of the best blocks. Elkin Jenkins is hitting free agency this year. It's going to help his free agency stock and all that stuff. Great block by Jenkins. Had nothing to do with this game ultimately, but all right. What else you got here on the 10-9 stuff?
That's all you wanted to say?
Yeah. Ben's reviewing the game right now. He's making sure it's all right.
Perfect. Jordan Love comes in with Aaron Rodgers dealing with his miraculous thumb injury and then an oblique injury, which looked a lot like a rib injury, but whatever. So Rodgers gets taken out of the game, goes to the locker room. Jordan Love comes in and I think makes the whole dynamic in Green Bay look a lot more interesting going forward because he looked good. Now, okay, it's like, what, 10, it's like 9 dropbacks or something. So it's a ridiculously small sample size. But made a bunch of nice throws. The production looks better than, I don't want to say it looks better than it was because he got a nice pass to Christian Watson who then outran the defense for a touchdown. So that part skews his numbers a little bit. And then he kind of didn't quite come up, but almost made another couple of plays. Like this looked a lot better than the last version of Jordan Love we saw. And again, this was another one of those things that people told you this in preseason and the offseason and stuff. But the problem is I think people say that about everybody, right? So some of them will be right because you're talking everybody up. But this looked different. This looked like Jordan Love could actually be a future quarterback of the Packers, which is probably the first time you can say that. And it's coming at a time where Rodgers is broken down and not functioning the way Rodgers functions, and the offense generally doesn't look like it's going to discover itself over the course of the season, and Green Bay isn't the contender they thought they were going to be. So all of a sudden you're like, we've been doing this will he, won't he, Aaron Rodgers retirement dance. I mean, is Rodgers about to get Brett Favre? Are the Packers going to make his decision for him?
I mean, this was always what the Packers envisioned, right? It was not this exactly, but at some point Jordan Love was going to look good, right? We knew he was a project, and at some point he's going to look good. It was 9 passes, right?
Yeah.
But in those 9 passes, first off, one of them is Christian Watson balling out, 63-yard touchdown, looking faster than everybody on the field once again. Christian Watson, second half breakout star. We got to start. We got to find who the guy was that said that was going to happen, and start naming him every single show as his predictions come true. That's the first thing. But you have a cover 2 shot that was dropped. I mean, Jordan Love goes 6 for 9 for $113, 12.6 yards per attempt, including a cover 2 shot getting dropped in there. So for whatever 9 passes is worth, Jordan Love did look good. He was whipping around and looking confident. And it's one of those things like when we watch the preseason, we say, we just want to see this guy look comfortable, right? Just make some throws and not look overwhelmed like Jordan Love did look last year, overwhelmed against the Chiefs. And he looked good in this little run. So you have those 9 passes combined with the fact that the Packers are 4-8. Aaron Rodgers looked like it hurt to breathe yesterday. Yeah. Every time he threw, he was in serious pain. The Chargers had Justin Herbert play through his fractured rib cartilage or whatever. I mean, it looked like it was a similar level of pain. I'm no doctor, but I'm just saying that every time you move, if your ribs are hurt, that's going to hurt. Like Rodgers almost certainly is going to miss time, right? This could be it. Not only for Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, his career, what's he going to do? We don't really know. There's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Tirico brought up the time way back when where the same thing happened with, Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers gets a chance. Rodgers comes in, looks like Aaron Rodgers, and all of a sudden the yearly retirement dance with Brett Favre of is he going to go? Is he going to come back? What are we going to like? The Packers just made the decision this time. They just went, you know what? No, we're done. See ya. We're not interested in you coming back. Actually, it's time to move on. We've got this guy, Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be good. This is the future. If you want to play, go do it somewhere else. And Brett Favre goes to the Jets and then the Vikings. But they made the decision. It would be some symmetry if this is the opportunity for Jordan Love to come in and show that he can be the next guy. And all of a sudden, after this yearly dance of Rodgers coming back, not what are we doing, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, you know what? Yeah, we don't need you anymore. See ya.
I mean, that's why they did it, right? It's why you draft Jordan Love in the first round, so that at some point when the time is right, you're hoping to be able to hand off the keys to the franchise and not be – because if they hadn't done it, not saying this is the worst thing in the world, the Packers are sitting here, they already have it. They're going to have a top 10 pick, right? They're going to have a top 10 pick, and they're going to be debating between C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis and these other guys. Maybe they don't have to do that now because Jordan Love looked all right. Now, we'll see what happens, but it's a massive story. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers' season, do you think it makes him more likely or less likely to retire? The fact that this season has gone so poorly. Rodgers and the Packers.
Less likely. I don't think any of these quarterbacks want to go out on a crappy year.
I know.
Now, if it's a crappy year because you're done, because you got nothing left physically, okay, that just happened.
That was like Peyton was going out no matter what.
Yeah, there was nothing Peyton could have done about it.
Drew Brees had to go out no matter what.
Right. If the last season with Denver had unraveled instead of winning a Super Bowl and Peyton Manning had just sort of crawled towards the end of that year and the Broncos were dismal, there's nothing Peyton Manning could have done to come back the next year. Like, he was toast. The Broncos, I mean, maybe they would have let him back, but it would have been miserable looking that year. So Peyton, I think, was done that year, whatever happened, and he just got lucky that the team was that good that he was able to ride the coattails to a Super Bowl. But, if you look like that in the final year and it goes bad, yeah, you might want to come back, but the chances are they don't want you back, and probably somebody needs to have a conversation and say, you know what, it's time. You're just done.
But we see the quarterback play in other places. There'll be a market for Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wants to play, there'll be a place for him to play.
Yeah, but he looks fine. Like, this is not a case where he's physically wrecked. Like, even his bad plays, the interceptions, the uncharacteristic mistakes from Rodgers, they're not physical. Like, we're not looking at, it's not like late career Drew Brees. We're like, you know what? He can't make those 15-yard outs anymore. Right. They're dropping 3 yards short every time. Those are risky. Again, Rodgers looks physically as good as he's ever looked. So if he wants to come back, he can come back. Maybe it won't be at Green Bay. Maybe they will do the Brett Favre thing and he'll have to go somewhere else. But, it's really down to, does Rodgers want to go out on a crappy year? And given that he spent the last sort of back end of his career, chasing another Super Bowl for validation, I find it very difficult to believe that he wants to walk away off the back of a really bad year like this.
I always try to enjoy the season when it's happening, but it can't help but look to February and March. The stories, Rodgers, is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? Is a team like Washington going to make a move for Rodgers? The Jets at the end of the season, right? There's going to be teams that are sitting there like, we won a ton of games this year, despite Taylor Heineke or despite Zach Wilson or whatever it is, and looking to add Aaron Rodgers. And the same way Denver did last offseason. Didn't work out for them, but, man, it's going to be fascinating. I think Brady's in a similar spot, right? I mean, if the Bucs had another really good season and just kind of like lost in the playoffs, it's like, all right, kind of went out on top. I did all right. But I think the season's going so badly for Brady and the Bucs that he's going to want to come back too. We might see Brady and Rodgers back next year because this year didn't go anywhere close to his plan for either.
I've always thought that Brady, of all people, would not want to walk away at the end of a bad year. He almost never has them. So if anybody was going to be irrational enough to believe that like next year they can go off on a high, it would be Brady, right? Because basically every couple of years he wins a Super Bowl. So why would he think the end of his career would be any different? It's like, oh, this year was bad. Let's come back next year. Let's win a championship. Then I can quit. So I've always thought that it would be weird for Brady to walk away at the end of a bad year if he can physically still do it. Now, family stuff can change that, right? Because who knows what pressures are on with kids and wife and blah, blah. But if you just threw that away, if you just got divorced over refusing to walk away last time.
We don't know why.
No, but that's a report. The general sense is that Brady's marriage is now no longer intact because Brady reneged on his deal to walk away and came back. If you already burned that bridge, it doesn't feel like you'd walk away at the end of it now.
So at the end, Aaron Rodgers said he expects to play as long as they're not mathematically eliminated. Some people took that as like, oh, you're a front runner, but I mean, it's really, why would he play if they're not in the playoff hunt?
Sure.
I think for the Packers, if you're the Packers, Matt LaFleur, he said, hey, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, ready to go, he's the guy. When do the Packers go to Jordan Love? Well, we should do today's daily. Let's do that on today's daily. I'll discuss that. Do 10 minutes on that today.
Okay.
All right. Tune into the daily today. We'll discuss what the Packers should do at quarterback. Eagles deserve a ton of credit here too, right? They're running like crazy, taking advantage. They're winning up front, and man, they can win so many different ways. The Eagles can win so many different ways. Any concerns with the defense in this one, or just some freak plays in there?
Not
Christian Watson running through the defense.
Yeah,
a couple
that
big
was
plays
bad.
by Rodgers.
Right. That was. I mean, really, you take that play out, and it happened. So, but you take that out of it, and the Eagles' defense, I think, did a pretty decent job over the course of the game. They played about as well as you would have expected. That was a problematic play where you just got beaten by an athlete. But outside of that, like I said, this felt like a much more comfortable win than it actually ended up being on the scoreboard. So for that reason alone, I think it was a good result and a good game for Philadelphia.
I will say, I think Christian Watson has single-handedly made this offense 1,000 times better.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 20-something targets, and 6 of them have gone for touchdowns. Like, throw him the ball some more.
Yeah. Even, the broadcast did a good job, too. The first touchdown that Rodgers threw to Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, they put him in the red zone. They run that crossing route and just say, win for speed, right? And he drew a double team the same way Devontae Adams did on that flea flicker. And that opened it up for Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb gets a step. Rodgers puts it right on him for the touchdown. Watson has that type of ability to draw coverage. So he's drawing coverage and he's scoring touchdowns. And then you have A.J. Dillon just running dudes over. Nobody wants to tackle him. He had a good game in this one. Aaron Jones is still good. As bad as the Packers have looked offensively this year, the pieces might be, in place here for a better offense down the stretch here and into next season.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem all season has been a complete lack of receivers. If Christian Watson changes that dynamic significantly, which it looks like he can, then they are immediately in a better spot. I mean, this was a team that was supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, even with a total lack of wide receivers.
Yeah. I can imagine. Imagine if they had Christian Watson and Devontae Adams, as I say every single week. Could you imagine if they had both? Watson would have been that missing piece with a Devontae Adams there, theoretically. Now, they still can't stop the run, and it is just – the defense has been a disaster
Yeah,
Green
I mean,
Bay. That was the part that was unexpected.
That's the other element, is that this was supposed to be the best defense that Aaron Rodgers had ever played with, and like they've just gone an entire game without being able to adjust and stop anybody running on them.
That was the miscalculation by all of us, really. And you could even say by Green Bay's team building effort. They purposely tried to build the best defense that Rodgers has ever had. We talk about chasing defense being, fool's gold sometimes. Like just build your offense and stitch it together on defense.
But from a personnel standpoint, they've done a pretty good job. It's like this defense is dramatically underachieving relative to its talent level. Like, they have a lot of very good players on this defense, and almost none of them are performing up to the levels we know they're capable of. And when you see games like yesterday where they're completely unable to make any kind of adjustment over the course of the game and stop an obvious problem, it kind of puts the focus back on the coaches and says, well, why is this not going so well? This is pretty miserable right now. This is a dramatic failure right now of this side of the ball.
All right, so the Eagles moved to 10-1 here. They're a game ahead of the Minnesota Vikings for the number 1 seed. They also have the tiebreaker in that one. Packers moved to 4-8, and the Vikings, I believe, next week can clinch the NFC North. There's about 6 teams in NFL history who have clinched by week 13. Now, no one has ever clinched the division in week 13
in a
17-game schedule. This has never happened. So the Vikings next week could be on pace to be the best team in NFL history. No one's ever done it.
Yeah.
17-game schedule. People are throwing paces. Oh, this guy's on pace for 1,700 yards because you're adding a 17th game. Just throwing off all the paces.
Well, the ones that I've started to think are the most ridiculous is where they're saying this guy's going to be like the second fastest player to X, yards or whatever in their first 3 years. It's like, yeah, but all these guys have got 3 more games to do that. That's quite a lot. When you talk about
and a different era, but nobody's adjusted for that. This is why I never wanted this game. I don't want this game.
Forget the era. Even just being like, oh, this guy's got X yards over their first 3 seasons. Like, yeah, but these guys have 3 games extra to hit that. And if you're talking about, whether it's receiving or passing, like, that's a lot. 3 passes. If the guys are averaging 250 yards a game, if you give them 3 more games, that's we've
only had 1 season of it. But yeah, it's going to start ruining all the records. But you don't care.
I mean, I don't care that it ruins the single season records, but I think when you start like stacking them on top of each other and you're like, this guy's the second fastest to ever get to this mark.
If only we could anticipate this.
Yeah, because he's got 3 more games to get there. Of course he's the second fastest.
And you said, oh, don't worry, just have to use context. I said, nobody will use context. Nobody will. What you can use, though, is the PFF app. Go download it. Go check it out. Nailed that Vikings pick, right? The one that we actually pushed on the podcast where we said, this is the PFF app. Go get it, right? Didn't they cover?
I don't remember.
I think they did. Sure hope they did. I just said they did. Anyway, go check out the PFF app. All your betting, fantasy, Sam's writing. Go check it out right now. All right.
They did cover.
Beautiful. We'll be back on Wednesday. This week it's Bills Patriots Thursday night. We'll have your friend Ariel Helwani coming back, friend of the show, coming back here to talk a little bit of Bills, maybe some 90s wrestling, which I saw you were watching some throwback wrestling the other day, huh?
Yeah. The original, maybe? The Royal Rumble.
Now that we could do some podcast episodes on that.
Yeah.
I could throw down on some 80s and 90s wrestling.
I'm quite conversive in the late 80s, early 90s wrestling, but the problem is anytime I revisit it, it's like this only functions if you're a 12-year-old. Like, you go back and you watch it.
Yeah, but so do Arnold movies, but we still...
No, they don't, though. You go back and watch an Arnie movie now, and they're still funny. You go back and watch a wrestling thing now, and it's like, this is kind of sad.
Now, get into
Jake the Snake Roberts just looks like my dad out there with these ridiculous boots and a snake. That's like, this guy's one of the least athletic human beings I've ever seen in my life. Who bought the idea that he could go and, out wrestle some guy jacked to his gills that looks it's silly.
He looks like your dad?
He really does.
Does your dad have a DDT like Jake the Snake? I don't think so.
I mean, I think he could, based off the athletic requirements of Jake the Snake in the ring.
Everybody hit the thumbs up button and then let us know if you need us to do some throwback WWE, WCW pay-per-view breakdowns.
Yeah.
We'll do that. All right. That's it. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be here on Wednesday.